Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We are live 30 minutes before the beginning of the Tesla annual shareholder meeting, which I will be reacting to today with you. I just figured, it's not that this is Cybertruck 2.0 event or we're going to get tons of crazy events. It's just, of course, I'm a shareholder and I'm interested in Tesla, and I know I'm going to be watching this regardless. So I figured if I'm going to be watching it, and I know a lot of you guys are going to be watching it, why not watch together? Or at least celebrate during this final little hype stream here as we count down the last 30 minutes. Just so we can catch up. I've been busy a lot as well, so I didn't get to do the EV stream yesterday. So I figured we can kind of have a little bit of catch up before and after the shareholder meeting. I just now remembering I did not tweet out that I was going to start, so I'm just going to tweet it real quick to react. What am I doing? I'm reacting to react to the annual shareholder meeting. So I hope you're all doing better than I am, because it's freaking hot in here. Any new info / announcements generally made at these shareholder meetings? There can be. From what I recall, last year there was some. I believe they provided updates on 4680 Model Y production, but they ended up getting delayed anyway. So it's like that if there are announcements to be made, they would be at this event. But there is absolutely a chance that there isn't that much to announce. There's a possibility of that on the what's it called, on the agenda of things that could be discussed is future gigafactories, because they did say that later in the year they would announce where the next gigafactories would be. So that's nothing's guaranteed, obviously, but there's a chance of them announcing that. Obviously, people have been asking for Cybertruck updates all left and right. So I guess if you wanted to do, this is supposed to be like a cyber roundup. They copyrighted all that. So if there was something to announce Cybertruck related, I guess it would be at this. Mike says, crossing fingers for CyberQuad appearance / update. Yeah, I'm there with you. CyberQuad has been criminally under talked about. I'm hoping for more Elon memes. We should at least get that at the very least. Elon memes are pretty plentiful at these things. Mike says, I know better than to expect any Cybertruck info. I know better, and yet... Mike in the Woods also said Hardware 4. I wonder if it's still going to first debut on the Cybertruck. I think it likely will, just because there's likely not a huge rush to get Hardware 4 out the door. And the Cybertruck is not in too big a hurry. So, but if they were announcing Hardware 4, I feel like that would be at AI Day, probably not at the shareholder meeting. Let's see. That's a lot of Apple product boxes. We're not talking Apple products today. We're on the EV channel. Next time I go live on Talos of Tech, we can talk about my favorite Apple products. But it's shareholder meeting day. First to comment, I guess. Welcome. Yeah, I was just looking back in the chat. Hey, Steve Huffman says, got my Model Y long range today, ordered in December. Wow, congratulations. I'm glad the wait is finally over. That's awesome. I wish I could say the same. I was literally at the Fremont factory yesterday. And my heart skipped a beat because I actually got a text from Tesla this morning when I was editing today's tech video, and I was like, oh, Tesla texted me. What did it say? And basically all it was, you can trade in your current vehicle and apply the value towards your Model 3 purchase. And I was like, I wasn't planning on trading in my vehicle, just because trade-ins are usually a scam. So I just told them, I'm not planning on trading in my vehicle, but I'm ready to pay in cash as soon as possible. And they said, hello, thank you for clarifying. And then I basically said, is there any way to accelerate my delivery? And they said, we are unable to provide you with an exact delivery date at this time, and it'll change. And I still don't have a VIN or anything. And my delivery window is still pretty wide. It's like between August 12th to September 9th. So theoretically, it could come next week, but given I don't have a VIN, it's not likely. But congratulations, Steve. I'm jealous. I'm low-key jealous. Not low-key. I'm high-key jealous for you getting your car. That's a long wait, though. I'm hoping for a date for the Cybertruck reveal 2.0. I don't even think they have that figured out yet. I mean, they basically unveiled the new Cybertruck at the Cyber Rodeo earlier in the year. They they drove up the Cybertruck prototype on stage, the one that doesn't have door handles and the one with the side view mirrors and the windshield wiper. They just drove that up, and we're like, okay, it's that this is what we're gonna make, and sorry it's taking so long, but it'll be worth it. That's essentially all they said. They didn't provide. I would love for them to just at least update the website. I think just updating the Cybertruck page with more accurate photos of what the production model will look like and more realistic expectations on pricing. Um, what's my Model 3 build? It's the white interior, white exterior, 18-inch aero wheels, rear-wheel drive, and no full self-driving, obviously. Hoping for talk of self-driving for... Oh, God. Am I the only person that doesn't want to hear more about how self-driving is so close and we're going to figure it out this year or next year? Like, I'm just kind of getting done with... I'm kind of getting sick of that whole discussion. It's like, until it starts doing something on its own without me monitoring it, I don't... Like, I'm not even interested in discussing it at this point. It just feels like the same roundabout discussions over and over again. Um... The Tesla Barbarian. I like that name. That's cool. I actually ordered my Model 3 long range the same week that you ordered yours. I hate that yours has been delayed so much. I took delivery in June. Whoa! In June? 2 months ago and you already got yours, man. I'll be honest. I've been tempted to upgrade to the long range solely for the purpose of getting it sooner, but I just don't like that not knowing, because like there's always a chance like my car could be ready in a couple weeks, or it could be another year for all I know. And I would just hate to spend the extra money on the long range when I don't really want it, and it's not going to be LFP, which is kind of what I wanted to test out with my ownership. And if I spent all that extra money and only saved like a week on my delivery, I would feel really dumb. So I'm just trying to be patient, and I'm trying to just... It'll come, Drew. Just relax. You're not going to think about all this waiting when the car arrives, but it's hard to not regret it now, because basically in the last 48 hours, or maybe more than that, but in the last couple days, I've driven over 1,000 miles. I went from Spokane, Washington, drove over to Seattle, Washington, drove down back to Northern California, and then all the way to San Francisco and back up. Ugh, it's brutal. It's brutal. Okay, Garrett D is with me. Don't care about full self-driving. It's not that I don't care. It's just if there's nothing to talk about, like, what is there to talk about? Like, okay, 10.12 came out. All right, it's okay in these circumstances, and it's a little worse in these circumstances. Okay, 10.13. Okay, it got this thing right, but then it broke this thing. It's like, I don't see any, like, linear upgrades in that regard, and until... What would get me to talk about full self-driving again is if Tesla started assuming some liability. If Tesla was like, okay, we believe in this system so much that there are going to be scenarios, maybe if you're on a freeway or maybe if you're in a certain city or whatever, if you're in this region, we will take responsibility for what the car does, and you don't have to pay attention for under certain requirements. You know, they could make it really, really specific. Like, okay, if you're on a freeway and you're not driving through the city, then we'll take responsibility and you don't have to pay attention. If we got to level 3 in limited form, I'd be like, okay, this is changing something. But so far, it's just beta being beta, which is nifty, kind of interesting tool, but not really a tool, more of a party trick. But you still have to pay attention, which kind of defeats the whole point of being self-driving. Got my fingers crossed from you to take delivery exactly 2 weeks from today. Let me tell you, it's worth it. Well, I believe you. I've driven them. I drove one on my trip, and I absolutely loved it. And I've just gotten more impatient since then. So I trust that it's worth it. Absolutely. My current estimated delivery date is August 12th to September 9th, which is a 4-week delivery window, which is pretty wide. So it's usually not very specific, and usually your estimated delivery date is not accurate if it's that wide. If Tesla assumed liability, it might be worth the $12,000. Well, I just think there'd be something to talk about. So far, it just... Jacob says, I live FSD talk and I swing there is no linear improvement is 1,000,000,000% wrong. Well, just watch Chris from Dirty Tesla. That's a great example. he got my car before I did, but I'm shouting him out here anyway, despite the fact that he ordered after me. So I'm still salty about that. I'm sorry. I'm just gonna keep bringing that up. But he's had updates that performed worse than previous updates. So has Mike in the chat. Mike is on the FSD beta and he drives around the Bay Area, and he's had updates that were good, and then 2 updates later they're completely worse, and they've regressed. Um, so it's always just this constantly moving target of, oh, okay, we fixed that problem and now this, it's ugh. They need to start relying on the camera to see that you're paying attention instead of making you keep your hands on the wheel. They're doing both currently. They do monitor your eyes. They just also monitor your hands. So it's just an extra layer of security because people abuse autopilot all the time, and then Tesla gets in the news for it. So all of the nagging, keeping your hands on the wheel and your eyes on the road, blame Consumer Reports for that, because it's those types of journalists and those types of companies that have shown the public how to abuse the system that then gets a bunch of attention in the media, and then they have to be more careful. People just don't try to troll or don't try to trick the Super Cruise system as often. You can trick it. Other companies have proven it. It's not a legal reason that you have to keep your hands there, because on Super Cruise you don't have to keep your hands on the wheel. It's literally just Tesla just protecting themselves liability-wise. Let's see. Declan says, I'm hoping for a Cybertruck update on the website, including updated renders, pricing, possibly delivery date, although they should claim that to be 9 to 15 months after they expect. Yeah, I mean, right, so far they keep saying Cybertruck will come middle of next year. I'm not particularly convinced because of how slow the 4680 ramp has gone. Maybe they know something I don't, but the fact that they've started introducing 2170 cells to the Model Y line makes me feel like something is taking the 4680s longer to ramp than they expected. And the Cybertruck needs those batteries, unless they have some backdoor plan we haven't heard about to use the Cybertruck with 2170 cells. I don't think it's impossible, but I've never heard them mention that. And most people have said that, well, because it's a truck, you need a really high nickel-based cathode in order to get the energy density. But I'm under the belief now, after watching the Rivian and Ford launch, that Tesla does not need a 500-mile range Cybertruck, which we've talked quite a bit about. FSD updates are one step forward, one back, but I've had FSD for about 11 months and it has drastically improved. I'm happy for you, Jacob, but unfortunately the law is not based on how FSD beta performs for Jacob. It's based on how it performs for everybody. And if one person is having a bad experience with it, that's going to slow down the rollout. That's going to slow out the deployment. Even if someone else in another city is having it work great and perfect for them, the whole concept of this single stack or, camera-based Tesla Vision self-driving is that this should be able to work anywhere. It's not geofenced to specific places. Dular says shareholders do need pricing information for the next year. I don't know if need is the right word. I'm sure it's very desirable, but I don't know if I would say they absolutely need it. Any chance Cybertruck can start at 50K? I would put that almost in the realm of impossible, considering the Model 3 rear-wheel drive is $47,000. You think that a whole truck would be only $3,000 more than that? No. I'm close to saying that's literally impossible, but then again, nothing is truly impossible. Tesla could do something crazy, but they typically don't. And I want people to remember that my Cybertruck pricing prediction comes from knowing how high demand is. It is not how much it costs the truck to build. It's not about like, oh, well, the paint shop doesn't need to be here, or you don't have as complicated body panels to worry about. It's like, it doesn't matter if the Cybertruck is 1/4 of the price to build of a Model 3. If demand is way off the charts, Tesla will charge accordingly. That's what we've seen with the 4680 Model Y and every other Tesla in the lineup. They were happy to tell us that the refreshed Model S and X were cheaper to build than the old one, but they cost like $40,000 more. That has everything to do with demand for those vehicles, nothing to do with how much it costs to build. Do you think with the EV credit bill going through, will 80,000... Okay, I don't know where you were going, Mando, with that question, but no, EV tax credits, all they do is increase demand. So Tesla has no problem with demand. They have no incentive to qualify for the EV tax credit to lower prices to qualify or whatever. They stopped doing that in Canada, I believe. There were credits up there that they qualified for, and then they raised the price so they didn't qualify anymore. Um, only company that should price their vehicles so that they qualify for the tax credit is a company that's struggling to sell their vehicles. And Tesla is not struggling to sell their vehicles. It's like all it would do is increase orders. Doesn't really change the amount of money they make. What about free FSD, like as an employee or a car that comes with it? I guess that would be a price already. What? Employee that comes with FSD? Live now? Jeez, are they starting early? It's probably just music, huh? And yes, I will show the event. Let me hear the music they're playing. Very cyber themed. Knowing Tesla events, it's very likely that this one will be late as usual. Elon is usually late to all these meetings. So I wouldn't be shocked if the event doesn't start for another 20 minutes or 30 minutes. Excuse me. Cybertruck is possible a few years after production. What, 2023? What? That doesn't even make sense. When I get a Cybertruck, it better not need a full battery replacement in 1.5 years like my Model Y. No, your Model Y shouldn't need that. But if it did, that something was wrong with it. But I'm sure that's not the intention. Like, if you ask Tesla not to do that, obviously they're going to, well, that's not the goal. Obviously, there are edge cases where batteries go bad, but we'll never quite know the percentage of batteries that go bad that need to be serviced prematurely because Tesla doesn't publish that data. But if it was bad enough that tons of people were reporting on it to the point of not buying the product, Tesla would probably need to act on it. But if it's like 0.1% of all their cars, it's frustrating, but it's still a pretty good yield. Don't get the dreaded copyright warning from the music they play at the event. Oh, I know. Trust me. I've walked down that path before. Actually, they're showing a mission animation here. So I'm gonna start showing the screen. I'm not gonna play the music, but I just want to see it because last time I reacted to the Cyber Rodeo, they actually played. Let me make sure. Oh, stuff is playing. Wait, what is playing? Is it over here? Oh, it's already on. I have it on a different tab. Whoops. Okay. If I switch to editing like this, I'll get it bigger screen. Don't worry. Let me see how much I can fill this up. Not editing. Earnings. That's the right scene. So, sorry, just give me a second. Last time when I reacted to the Cyber Rodeo and we were watching the countdown, they had B-roll in here that hadn't been seen before of the Cybertruck, and then after the live stream ended, they cut out the B-roll so you couldn't watch it after the fact. This is cropped in a little too much, sorry. Mission, impact, manufacturing. I've just got to scale it. You'd think I'd be the kind of guy prepared for these things, but no, we're all just winging it. This can come down. Honestly, had it expected on a different tab. Oh no! You can see all my tabs. Transported by electric vehicles. Okay. This can be resized. There we go. I think if I can get that out of the way, we should be good. And I'll turn on the audio once they actually start saying things. But right now it's just music that's going to get me copyright claimed. Give me a second. I'll pull up the chat here so I can see what y'all are saying. Let's see. Ooh. I think they did a new photo shoot with the Model Y. It's all about the BYD EV entering the market, qualifying for the old tax credit. Oh, are they trying to make it more fair? Ooh! Nice! Look at this Cybertruck B-roll. It looks gorgeous. Ooh! Did they show Roadster B-roll last time? I don't even remember. Oh, look at that! That's new Tesla Semi footage! Oh, it looks beautiful. I keep hoping I'm going to see one of these because I drive by the Modesto facility where they have the mega chargers and stuff and they're testing the Semi. I keep hoping I'm going to see one, but oh, it's beautiful. Could Tesla create a child company that will make all the cars and qualify for the tax credit, similar to how Google is a child company of Alphabet? Could they? Yes. Will they? No, because there's almost no advantages to doing that. Because, again, all the federal tax credit helps with is demand, and Tesla has an opposite of a lack of demand. They have too much demand. They have so much demand they can build their cars with bad quality control, and people will pay for it because they don't care. They'll put up with the quality control because they're like, I just want the car, even if it's not great build quality. Um, I got an edge case. BMS basically went haywire and ruined the battery. That sucks, Logan. I'm sorry to hear that. Will you be making a dedicated video on the EV tax credit? No, because I have kind of already done a video on tax credits with Tesla and why I don't think they make that big a difference. We also did an entire Tailosive EV podcast. Not entire, but a big chunk of the last EV podcast was just about the tax credit, and we basically all came to the same conclusion, which is that the tax credit doesn't really change that much. It makes, I guess, it makes EVs that are struggling to sell more desirable. So GM is having a hard time selling the Bolt, and the Bolt becomes cheaper after incentives when you get a tax credit back. So that would make the Bolt really affordable, but for Tesla it basically means nothing, and Tesla is most of the EV market at this point, in the US especially, which is what the tax credit about. Dan says he's seen some Tesla semis on the road. They look smaller IRL. Well, that's good. You want a small frontal surface area. You want it to be efficient. Oh, Hella 916 just took delivery of their Model 3, and it looks amazing. Congratulations. I'm happy for you. I know. Not every Tesla has bad quality control. It's just, it gets brought up a lot, so I use it as an example of, like, even if the quality control is bad, and they've done studies that show, like, oh, the number of service visits Tesla customers go to is higher than that of the average car. I'm not saying that every Tesla has bad quality control. I'm just saying that the percentage of Teslas with quality control problems is typically higher than that of other automakers. And that doesn't affect demand because people want these cars so bad. I accept that 500-mile range could be considered a bit excessive, but for a truck it might be right in the wheelhouse to ensure top-tier range while towing. It's not. I'm not trying to say it's excessive. I'm just trying to say it's not necessary. There are tons of people that buy pickup trucks and drive them that don't tow cross-country. I know some people do, but Tesla already has enough demand for the Cybertruck. They can comfortably afford to lose 90% of the orders, and they would still have a multi-year backlog. It's not that 500-mile range is unuseful. I'm not trying to say you don't need that. Some people do, but where I disagree is people saying that all truck buyers need that. Every truck buyer needs to tow cross country. That's where I disagree. Do you think Fremont will eventually produce only the Model S and X so that they do not need to supply Model 3 parts there anymore? Streamline production, dedicated S and X factory. Based on the wording I've heard from Elon and Tesla, I don't see them ever shutting down assembly lines permanently. So, yeah, Fremont isn't as streamlined as Giga Texas or Giga Berlin, but if you shut down the Model 3 and Y lines, that's going to be less vehicles total that you build. Sure, you don't have to ship as many components to that factory, but there's already supply chains in check doing that. Like, you've got the whole Giga Nevada facility cranking out 2170 cells that are specifically for Fremont. So even if you just totally retro, and Model S and X aren't high volume vehicles, they're hoping to, like, eventually one day build 100,000, 110,000 a year. Whereas the Model 3 and Y is most of what Fremont is building. Those are like hundreds of thousands per year. And they plan on continuing to scale that up. So I believe Tesla would much rather just build more factories with more Model 3 and Model Y assembly lines, not shut down old ones to simplify things, because that's going to just be leaving good money on the table. Good manufacturing lines that are operational and ready and working. The Fremont 3 lines into S or X line. I just don't think the market needs 600,000 Model S's and X's a year. I don't think that's necessary. And they're built on, like, different battery pack tech. They, the Model 3 and Y are using 2170s, Model S and X are using 1865s. So it's an old factory that's fairly dated in many ways, but it's just like how Tesla likes to recycle their battery packs. I think they want to continue recycling their factories, even if they're old. If there's demand, if there's a year-long wait for people getting their Teslas, Oh, I'm sorry. The Cybertruck is so beautiful. I just I have to watch. Oh, it looks so clean. I wish they would release this B-roll, but also this is the prototype. Might not be too old for that, so extra time. Yeah, it would just add a lot of complexity, and it would lead to a lot of total downtime of the total factory, which would just result in less vehicles being built. So there's really not much of a point in shutting it down, unless we reach a point where the quality control is just so bad that no one's buying them. Like, no one wants to buy a Tesla from Fremont. If that day comes, then maybe it would make sense to shut it down or completely gut it or retrofit it to something else. But we are so far away from that being a problem because the Model S and X still have like year-long waits, sometimes more. And I ordered my Model 3 in March and I'm still waiting, and it's all on Fremont. Giga Texas, they have no announced plans right now to ever build the Model 3 at Texas. I just want to give some perspective on that. Like, they've said we're going to do Model Y here, and then after that we're going to do Cybertruck, and those two vehicles are going to be very difficult to mass produce and get to high volume. And then after that, they probably want to do the Semi or the Cyber Quad. There's like no currently announced plans are to build the Model 3 in North America anywhere other than Fremont, which is why I don't think Fremont is going anywhere. They just built their 2 millionth car. First and second of the most American-made index. That's cool. The most expensive version of the Cybertruck should have 500-mile range. Should is a different discussion. It's easy from a consumer perspective to say, well, it's expensive, it should do this. But that doesn't mean they will. You know, the most expensive Model X goes 330 miles. Actually, the higher priced vehicles typically have lower range. The most expensive Model 3 does not have the longest range. So I don't completely agree with that. I mean, should is easy to say, but like, because demand is so high and Tesla knows that, I think they are going to prioritize production efficiency above all else. All the focus is going to be on how many of these trucks we can build, and putting in 180 to 200 kilowatt hour battery packs in every truck is not prioritizing production efficiency. That's prioritizing high range, which means you care about demand because you want your product to be desirable. And Tesla knows that their products are desirable enough already. These are new clips of the S and X. Yeah, I'm noticing that. There's some new clips in these. They're good looking. Need Fremont Fest, but more importantly, Giga Fremont factory. Imagine that. The biggest version of the newest Gigafactory that could possibly fit in the Fremont's place. The problem, I think, is the layout is kind of off. It's not a perfectly square plot of land. There's like roads and streets and stuff going through it and all that. By Lucid, I don't know how or when Teslas will have 400 miles. The long-range Model S has had a 400-mile range for the past 2 years now, 2.5, maybe 3 years. But being the king of range doesn't mean much. And Tesla's goal is not to make the longest range EVs. It's to accelerate our transition to sustainable energy. That's what their focus is on, and that means prioritizing how many vehicles you can build, not how long a range you can build. It's not a magical formula that only Lucid can figure out. It's easy. You just put more batteries in a car. But it's a matter of, is that sustainable? Is that scalable? Blake says, I'm stuck between I don't need anything long range and I guess the range anxiety I would have when I go to my parents twice a year, 1,100-mile trip. I have always been pleasantly surprised with all the people who bought standard range Teslas. Everyone I've talked to that buys them and does road trips with them goes, oh yeah, it's fine. You just stop a little bit more often, but I'm happy with it. What other company hosts shareholder meetings with 20,000 people watching the live stream before it even starts? That's a good point, Farmer Gold. How much, how often do you get this much interest in a, in a shareholder meeting? I mean, Apple doesn't even get this much. They have their like announcement events, but need to make extra range modular attachments for Cybertruck or any Tesla. Those can be changed out at Tesla, like 5-gallon water jugs. Again, it would slow down how many you could build because you're limited by how many batteries you have. So if you start selling battery module attachments, then you're slow. Those battery modules could go in another truck, and you could build those trucks faster. At least be the option to get a Cybertruck. Again with this word should. It's easy to say there should be because I want that, but I still feel like every time people suggest that or ask for it, they're missing the point. This isn't about pleasing everyone. This is about building as many as possible, and as long as there's demand for 300-mile range trucks, then I think they'll be comfortable selling it like that. even if it costs upwards of 150 grand. It's just going to be, oh, I think it's starting. Hello. Anyway, even if you put a bunch of batteries in a Cybertruck, you could put fewer cells and make 2 Cybertrucks, which would be more profitable.
Good afternoon, everyone.
It's
welcome
starting.
To Tesla's 2022 annual shareholder meeting. My name is Martin Vieca. I'm the Vice President of Investor Relations, and I'll be the chair of today's meeting.
All right.
We're super excited that finally, after 2 years, we get a proper attended meeting this year with so many people in the audience.
It wasn't proper last year, I guess.
We have more people in the audience this year than we've ever had before. But first and foremost, I just really wanted to thank all of our investors, and particularly our retail shareholders, that have been so...
Yes, they also started on time. That never happens.
So supportive and just so engaged over the years, and especially to those who have cast their ballot in the last few weeks. Each vote really matters, so thank you so much for taking time to cast your ballot and do your part in the annual vote. And we're hopeful that from now on, every year, you will be casting your ballot. There will be 2 parts of today's meeting. First, we're going to do the formal part of the meeting, which will cover 13 items that investors are going to be asked to vote on. And after the voting, I will introduce Tesla's co-founder and CEO, Elon Musk.
Techno King.
Who will give a presentation.
He's the Techno King, not the CEO. Come on.
Who will give a presentation about Tesla and the year in review. At this time, I would like to thank members of the Tesla team and the board who are here with us today. A representative from PricewaterhouseCoopers, Tesla's independent auditor, is present on the phone as well. But before we begin, I would like to introduce you to our chair, Robin Denholm, chair of Tesla's board.
We have
would like to say a few words.
Yeah, she started the last meeting.
Okay. This is the short part of the agenda. So thank you, Martin, and good afternoon, everyone. It's my great pleasure to welcome you all to Tesla's 2022 annual shareholder meeting.
We gotta adjust this
camera.
camera.
And I am delighted that we are here in person again this year, and I'm also really thrilled to see so many of you with us today here in Giga, Texas, in Austin. And so because we know that not everyone can join us in person, we would need a very large stadium to actually have everyone. And because we have a lot of investors as well around the country and around the planet, we actually have also got a lot of shareholders online today, and I'd like to welcome them to this meeting as well.
I'm welcome.
So a big welcome to all of our virtual
I've been welcomed.
attendees.
Oh my God. I feel so welcomed right now. Thank you.
I would also like to thank our amazing investors and acknowledge you, because without you, we would not be here today. It is because of your support that we have become the company that we are, and that we have been able to make so much progress against our mission of accelerating the world's transition to sustainable energy. Last year alone, our global fleet of vehicles, energy storage and solar panels enabled our customers to avoid emitting 8.4 million metric tons of greenhouse gas emissions.
Wow.
And to put that in context, that means that we avoided emissions by using Tesla products. Last year, it was the equivalent of driving gas-powered cars for 20 billion miles.
Oof.
And that is 20 billion with a B.
Billion. How many miles do we drive?
And as you all know, that we are still in the very early phases of this transition. And as I mentioned last year, by 2030, we aim to sell 20 million electric vehicles per annum.
All right. We're doubling down on it. 20 million, 2030. That's going to be insane.
And we're making great progress towards achieving this goal. In June of this year, we achieved the highest vehicle production month in our history, despite supply headwinds and despite the shutdowns in Shanghai. And we continue to ramp our factories both here in Austin as well as in Germany. And
Just
most
Germany.
people know Tesla for our cars.
Not Shanghai.
But we are also making a great big impact with our solar and energy storage business as well. Last year alone, Tesla sold 4 gigawatt hours of energy storage products.
Great Scott.
That represents enough energy to power 3 million homes. Tesla's energy storage deployments have nearly quadrupled in the last 4 years, and last year represented over 15% of the gigawatt hours globally. Over the past decade, Tesla's solar panels have generated more electricity than has been consumed by our factories and
That's
by
awesome.
all of the Tesla cars fleet on the road
That's
combined.
amazing. Combined.
So in theory, today, all US domestic electricity needs, as well as the vehicle and transportation needs, could be met by solar power alone.
That's
We're
amazing.
also continuously working on reducing the cost of our solar and storage products in order to foster mass adoption.
I haven't seen them go
Using
down.
renewable energy sources like solar and wind with battery storage, it's fast becoming the cheapest energy option available. And as we continue to bring our costs down, more consumers will be able to not only have a positive impact on the environment, but it will also make economic sense to use renewable energy.
Giggly bits. You gotta make renewables desirable.
As we
That's
discussed
the
in
only
our
way.
impact report, we're constantly working to improve not only the positive impact of our products, but also to reduce the energy and water consumption that we are using in our manufacturing process. In fact, our goal is for all of our factories to be carbon neutral. And to that end, we are continuously innovating for energy efficiency by building increasingly sustainable factories, covering our rooftops with solar panels, leveraging AI to reduce the energy consumption, and utilising renewable energy as much as possible throughout all of our operations. In our newest factories, we already use less water per vehicle than almost any other traditional car maker. And we are continuously exploring ways to reduce water further throughout our operations, including optimising and eliminating processes that are water intensive, harvesting rainwater, and also reusing reclaimed and recycled water. Sustainability is our main driver and motivator. It drives everything that we do. It drives our values and our mission as a company. It drives all of our employees, our shareholders, our customers, and it underscores everything that we do as directors. This month marks my 8th anniversary as a director at Tesla. And I, along with my fellow board members, many of whom are here today and online, who are here with us today, and we could not be more proud to serve as your board, to help ensure that the framework of governance needed to succeed in our mission. Our governance model has enabled us to remain focused on making decisions that matter, often bold decisions that unlock growth potential. Decisions like engineering and manufacturing EVs from the ground up, rather than being just a supplier of components. By building the world's largest lithium-ion battery factory today, and so that we can scale our operations efficiently. Making investments in an international network of stores, service centres and supercharging stations to expand customer convenience and access. And we remain dedicated to advancing your interests, your shareholder interests, and firmly believe that good governance is a hallmark of sustainability. Driving long-term value, protecting shareholder interests, and ensuring our actions are aligned with our values. Thank you.
I'd rather them be late and not talk about this stuff. I'm
And
so
as
honored.
directors, we listen to and value your voice and input. And whether it be by submitting comments and questions during our earnings calls or communicating with us through our board portal or attending and interacting with us at events like this and this shareholder meeting today. I'm excited also to announce that we have recently launched a new shareholder platform to facilitate your interaction with management, participating in company events, and receiving information directly relevant to you as a shareholder. You'll be hearing more updates on this platform in the near future. Thank you.
Production value.
Once again, I want to thank you for your support and for continuing to be our partner along this incredible and important journey. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank all of Tesla's amazing employees around the world. You are the lifeblood of all of our achievements as a company. You're phenomenal.
There's so many people to thank. Been thanking people for 12 minutes. There is no water in this air.
I would also like to thank Larry Ellison, who has diligently served as a director over the last 3 years. Your contributions have helped us as a board and also as a company greatly.
Thank Larry.
And with that,
later.
I want to hand it over to Martin again. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, 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 thank you. Everyone has been thanked.
Thank you very much, Robin.
Thank you. Thank
I will
you.
now call the meeting to order.
I will now thank you.
The time is now 4:42 Central Time PM, and I declare that the polls are now open. We have already received over the past few weeks voting proxies from our stockholders, meaning that almost all the votes have been counted, were already submitted before this meeting.
This shot's really out of focus.
However, if you wish to vote your shares, or if you would wish to change your vote,
Thank you.
you may do so through the virtual meeting site. For those here in person, ballots and ballot boxes were made available for you prior to the meeting. Tesla's board of directors has appointed Computershare Trust Company to serve as an inspector of election for this meeting. Computershare has taken and signed an oath as inspector of election and has certified that starting on June 23rd, 2022, the proxy materials or the notice of internet availability of the proxy materials well mailed or provided to all Tesla stockholders as of record day of June 6, 2022.
All the questions are like, split the
We have
stock.
majority of outstanding shares represented at the meeting.
When stock
So I
split.
declare that there's a quorum present and that we may proceed with a meeting. The items on the agenda are as follows. Number 1, the election of 2 Class 3 directors, Ira Enterprise and Kathleen Wilson-Thompson, to serve for a term of 3 years or until their respective successors are duly elected and qualified. If Proposal 2 of the agenda is approved, then Mr. Enterprise and Ms. Wilson-Thompson would serve for a term of 2 years or until their respective successors are duly elected and qualified. Number 2, to adopt amendments to our certificate of incorporation to reduce director terms to 2 years.
It's all direct.
Number 3, to adopt amendments to certificate of incorporation and bylaws to eliminate applicable supermajority voting requirements. Number 4, to adopt amendments or certificate of incorporation to increase the number of authorized shares of common stock by 4 billion common shares.
Whoa.
Number 5, to ratify the appointment of PricewaterhouseCoopers LLP, Tesla's independent registered public accounting firm for the fiscal year 2022. Tesla's board has recommended that our stockholders vote for each of the director nominees and
Okay.
for each of those proposals.
I will.
We have also received 8 stockholder proposals as described in our proxy statement. I would like to remind our stockholders that Tesla's board has prepared a statement in opposition to each of those proposals, which appear in our proxy statement. The first stockholder proposal is an advisory vote regarding proxy access. Our board has recommended that our stockholders vote against this stockholder proposal. This stockholder proposal is proposed by James McRitchie, who is on the line to present the proposal. Mr. McRitchie, I would like to invite you to speak. You have 3 minutes.
Oh boy. Keep it brief. He's going to go over 3.
Thank you. Tesla's opposition statement says the board recognizes proxy access as a topic of growing interest in the investor community. Unlike 79% of the S&P 500, our board has failed to adopt any provision to provide shareholders with a real voice in directly nominating board members, our representatives, on Tesla's corporate governance. Instead, the board promises to continue to monitor the topic. Tesla further argues our proposal provides no safeguards against corporate raiders to affect a change in control. Nonsense. Our proposal is limited by law to 500 words. It simply asks the board to allow long-term shareholders who've owned at least 3% of Tesla continuously for 3 years or more to be able to nominate directors. Nothing in the proposal is binding. If passed, it is up to the board to add necessary safeguards, as boards have done at hundreds of other companies. Getting more than 50% of the shareholder vote may mean little at Tesla. Our proposal to eliminate supermajority requirements at Tesla won 56% of the vote at our 2020 meeting. Yet we are still voting on it this year. Are insiders at Tesla voting to block adoption? Our proposal to declassify the board won 55% at the 2021 meeting. Yet the board now wants a halfway measure. Instead of voting on directors every year, the board wants it to be every other year. How large of a majority is required to move our board to action? Because of the board's inaction, proxy advisors ISS and Glass Lewis recommended against the directors up for election at this meeting and against the halfway measure toward declassifying the board. As stated in the proxy access proposal, 2 of our largest shareholder proposals, BlackRock and Vanguard, voted in favor of 87 and 91% of shareholder proposals to establish proxy access during the last 3.5 years. Additionally, proxy advisors ISS, Glass Lewis, and Egan-Jones all recommend a vote for proposal number 6 at this meeting. Let's cut the bull. Give shareholders a direct voice in nominating directors. Vote for proposal number 6. Proxy access at Tesla is long overdue. Thank you.
The directors have just done such a great job with the
Thank you,
company.
Mr. Ritchie. The second stockholder proposal is an advisory vote regarding annual reporting on anti-harassment and discrimination efforts. Our board has recommended that our stockholders vote against this stockholder proposal. This stockholder proposal is proposed by the New York State Common Retirement Fund, whose representative, Emily Bogan, is on the line to present the proposal. Ms. Bogan, I would like to invite you to speak. You will have 3 minutes.
Good afternoon. On behalf of New York State Comptroller Thomas Napoli, trustee of the New York State Common Retirement Fund, owner of over 1 million shares of Tesla valued at approximately $1.2 billion, I am presenting proposal 7 on the proxy. The proposal requests a report describing and quantifying the effectiveness and outcomes of company efforts to prevent harassment and discrimination against protected classes of employees, including but not limited to sexual harassment and racial discrimination. Tesla's 2020 Diversity, Equity, and Impact Report states, quote, insists on equitable practices, not just because it's the right thing to do, but because fair processes allow our team members to bring their whole selves to work. We value and include underrepresented communities at all levels of our company. End quote. Meanwhile, there have been multiple news reports, allegations, and lawsuits in recent years concerning gender and race discrimination at Tesla. These include a federal district court recently concluding that there was ample disturbing evidence to support the outcome of a California discrimination trial in October of 2021, at which jurors heard that the Tesla factory in Fremont was saturated with racism and that supervisors at Tesla's broader management failed to help. The judge added, and supervisors even joined in on the abuse. Additionally, the U.S. Equal Opportunity Commission has initiated an open investigation into Tesla for alleged workplace discrimination at its facilities. Finally, after receiving hundreds of Tesla's workers' complaints, the California Department of Fair Employment and Housing is suing the company over allegations of discrimination and harassment of Black employees at its San Francisco Bay Area factory. Shareholders need the information requested for the following reasons. First, it has been reported that most Tesla workers are subject to mandatory arbitration agreements. Consequently, transparency into the extent of workforce mismanagement is limited. Secondly, civil rights violations within the workplace can result in substantial costs to companies, including fines and penalties, legal costs, costs related to absenteeism, and reduced productivity. Thirdly, a company's failure to properly manage its workforce can damage corporate goodwill, making it more difficult to retain and recruit employees and jeopardize its relationship with its customers and partners. Lastly, a Deloitte Global Executive Survey on strategic risk found that the number one risk concern for business executives surveyed from around the world is reputation damage. For all these reasons, shareholders want increased transparency into the requested data, policy, and practices so we can better evaluate whether the board is effectively exercising its oversight obligations, its efforts translate into improved performance in managing its workforce and reputation, and whether there's alignment between Tesla's stated policies and actions.
A lot of these claims are baseless.
Thank you, Ms. Spogan. The third stockholder proposal is an advisory vote regarding annual report on board diversity. Our board has recommended that our stockholders vote against this stockholder proposal. The stockholder proposal is proposed by Alex Lamb, whose representative Julia Cederholm from Arjuna Capital is on the line to present the proposal. Ms. Cederholm, I would like to invite you to speak. You will have 3 minutes.
Times it on his watch.
Good afternoon. My name is Julia Cederholm from investment management firm Arjuna Capital, and I move Proposal 8, asking the company to report on policies and practices to improve board diversity. That is, to attain racial and gender representation better aligned with the demographics of its employees and customers. Board diversity efforts are in the best interest of Tesla and its investors. Numerous studies show greater diversity leads to better company performance and increased shareholder value.
They have a lot of diversity.
Regulation has increased as the value of board diversity becomes more evident. At least 12 states have enacted or are considering board diversity requirements, and the NASDAQ requires companies attain at least 2 diverse directors. But more is needed. In a country comprised of 51% women and 42% minorities, current board diversity aspirations fall short. A board of directors whose diversity is reflective of its employee and customer base is better positioned to outperform. When a board includes diverse members, it can better recognize the unique needs and interests of its stakeholders. That is why 61% of investors believe boards should aim to reflect the company's customer base and broader societies in which they operate, according to a survey by Institutional Shareholder Services. Unfortunately, Tesla's board diversity is disproportionate with its employee base and U.S. demographics. The board remains majority white and majority male, despite a majority minority employee base.
You can't control
the
who
board
applies.
is made up of 25% racially or ethnically diverse directors, far below its employee base, which is 60% minorities. The board is also made up of only 25% women. Additionally, Tesla currently faces litigation with California State for failing to deal with allegations of systemic racism and sexism at the automaker. It's crucial Tesla addresses these issues head-on at the highest level of governance, its board of directors. While the company has said it's committed to board diversity, there are no quantitative board diversity goals. Such goals and transparent reporting are needed to create progress over time and hold the company accountable to its investors, employees, and customers. I urge you to support Proposal 8, requesting Tesla further diversify its board to reflect its employee and customer base.
Yeah, they do this
Such
every year.
action can better position our company to respond to stakeholders' needs and concerns and ultimately improve performance. Thank you for your support of Proposal 8.
Thank you, Mr. Siedelholm.
It's just more paperwork.
The fourth stockholder proposal is an advisory vote regarding reporting on employee arbitration. Our board has recommended to vote against this stockholder proposal. The stockholder proposal is proposed by NIA Impact Capital, whose representative Christine Hall is here to present the proposal. Dr. Hall, I would like to invite you to speak. You will have 3 minutes.
Hello, I'm Dr. Kristen Hull, founder and CEO at NIA Impact Capital. On behalf of NIA and our co-filers, I formally move proposal number 9. As an investor, I'm here today like many of you because we believe in the strength of this company to lead in the transition to the next sustainable economy. This resolution requests that Tesla's board of directors oversee the preparation of a report on the use of mandatory arbitration for dissolving disputes between workers and the company. Your yes vote today will impact Tesla for the better, and here's why. Significant concerns have been raised about the persistence of racism and racist actions at Tesla. There have been many recent discrimination claims, including California's Department of Fair Employment, which alleges that hundreds of Black Tesla employees have been discriminated against in job assignments, with disciplinary actions, with regard to pay, and being passed up for promotions. Allegations also include the use of racial slurs and racist graffiti. Also troubling may be a culture of retaliation, where employees who have raised these issues with management and HR have claimed being retaliated against. Given the grave allegations, it's time that investors get a look under the hood, or the frunk, as it would be with Tesla. When disputes are handled via arbitration, the underlying facts and outcomes of the cases often remain secret, preventing other employees from learning about and taking action on shared concerns. Arbitration precludes employees from suing in court, and it blocks class actions, allowing pervasive discrimination to continue. Stated simply, arbitration of employee claims may allow bad corporate behavior to continue, hidden from other employees and from investors.
Tesla was acquitted in court on this.
And harassment in the workplace create uncompensated risks, both for investors and, as it seems to be, invite legal, brand, and financial risks for our company, Tesla. In this day and age, we know strong human capital management is essential. Recruiting,
why
hiring,
don't you joke
and
about the
training
frunk on this subject?
an employee, and then treating them in a way that inhibits their top performance, even preventing them from doing their job well. It doesn't make moral or financial sense. Tesla is known, as we all know, for its innovation and its leadership in technology. And now Tesla needs to rev up to solve this grave human capital issue. Tesla will need a smart, well-run, loyal, and devoted workforce, and, of course, loyal customer base to stay ahead.
We have that.
And frankly, racism has no place in a business seeking to lead our future.
I don't think they disagree.
We at NIA ask again that the board evaluate the effects and the impact of arbitration on Tesla's brand, on its employees, and on its workplace culture. Thank you.
They phrase it in a way
Thank you,
that you
Dr.
can't
Hall.
disagree.
The fifth stockholder proposal is an advisory vote regarding reporting on lobbying. Our board has recommended that our stockholders vote against this stockholder proposal. This stockholder proposal is proposed by the Nathan Cummings Foundation, whose representative Lara Campos is on the line to present the proposal. Ms. Campos, I would like to invite you to speak. You will have 3 minutes.
She said hundreds of employees reported the graffiti thing. I do not think it was hundreds.
Good evening. I'm Laura Campos. I am the director of the Corporate and Political Accountability Program at the Nathan Cummings Foundation. I'm participating in Tesla's annual meeting to move proposal number 10 on behalf of the foundation and its co-filer, Green Century. Proposal 10 requests that Tesla's board of directors evaluate and report on Tesla's direct and indirect lobbying and policy influence activities, and how those activities align with the goal of limiting global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius. The proposal also seeks information on plans to mitigate risks presented by any misalignment that might be found.
Here are just a few of the reasons we categorically disagree with the board's assertion that Tesla does not need to evaluate and report on its lobbying and policy influence activities.
What are they? The government hates
other
them.
companies of its size and influence,
What are they lobbying?
Tesla does not appear to have strong governance mechanisms in place to ensure its political activities, including lobbying expenditures, support its business model and its mission to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy.
They weren't even invited to the EV
In fact,
summit.
the company earned an abysmal 0 points out of a possible 70 on the most recent CPA-Zicklin Index of Corporate Political Disclosure and Accountability. Tesla contends that a simple online search provides the information sought in this proposal. That is incorrect. To our knowledge, the only information Tesla discloses is found in its quarterly lobbying activity report, which all active registrants are required to file. These reports do not enable investors or the public to determine whether a company is taking a stance for or against a particular bill. Furthermore, this reporting does not reveal whether Tesla's advocacy is aligned with the Paris Agreement, and it fails to shed any light at all on indirect lobbying.
With the Paris
Tesla's
Agreement?
message to investors
What
when it
company
comes
is
to
more
political
aligned?
activities appears to be, just trust us, we're the good guys. But that's simply not sufficient for a public company. Peers like GM and Ford have substantially more disclosure in this area. What's more, public
'Cause they
statements
don't
by
lobby.
Tesla's
There's
CEO
no
raise
lobbying
real
going on.
questions about Tesla's actual stance on legislation
If they
intended
lobby,
to
they're
support
terrible
the
at
world's
it.
transition to sustainable energy. For instance, in a 2021 Wall Street Journal interview, Tesla's CEO expressed a lack of support for the Build Back Better Act, a centerpiece of the Biden administration's efforts to address climate change. In a statement indicative of the need for stronger governance
can hear the
mechanisms
audience is
when
laughing.
it comes to political activities and lobbying,
You led,
Tesla's
Mary.
CEO noted that, quote, no one at Tesla has actually brought up whether they care about this bill or not. We don't think about it at all, really, end quote.
Yeah, GM and Ford, they don't lobby
Completing
at
the
all.
requested evaluation would ensure that someone at Tesla is thinking about the company's stance on critical pieces of major legislation that impact not just the transition to sustainable
Miss
energy,
Campos, the 3
but our
minutes have
country's
passed.
You gotta stop. You're done. Went over your time. That's the only lobbying going on.
Thank you very much. The sixth stockholder proposal is an advisory vote regarding the adoption of freedom of association and collective bargaining policy. Our board has recommended that our stockholders vote against this stockholder proposal. The stockholder proposal is proposed by Christian Pauli, who has prepared a pre-recorded message.
Hello,
Time.
shareholders, members of the board. My name is Christine Pauli. With support of the Shareholder Association to Research and Education and co-filers at Domini Impact Investments and SOC Investment Group, I wish to advance number 11 on Tesla's proxy statement, urging adoption of a policy to respect rights to freedom of association and collective bargaining in the company's operations.
What?
These rights can enhance shareholder value through improving health and safety, encouraging training and skills development, increasing productivity, promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion, and strengthening human rights due diligence. Yet in the face of public allegations of Tesla interfering in unionization efforts, a National Labor Relations Board ruling concluding that Tesla intimidated, threatened, and retaliated against employees to prevent their organizing, and the CEO's history of public comments on this topic, to aid informed investment decisions, investors require clarity on Tesla's approach to these fundamental labor rights and management of related risks. The board's response is cause for shareholder concern. Although the board states its commitment to human rights, Tesla's human rights policy omits mention of freedom of association or collective bargaining. The board points to Tesla's supplier code of conduct, which does include respecting the rights of workers to form and join trade unions. But in fact, this policy does not apply to operations, creating a double standard. The NLRB
Union employees make
findings
less.
already mentioned challenge the board's claim that the company
Just say it.
complies with all applicable laws.
That was
and that the
proven.
local laws fail to adequately protect these rights. Tesla's peers, including Ford, General Motors, and Goodyear, explicitly reference freedom of association in their human rights policies, which do apply to operations. Even non-unionized peers, including Toyota, Volkswagen, and BMW, have statements that respect rights of freedom of association or collective bargaining that apparently apply to operations. But Tesla's governance gap on freedom of association and collective bargaining represents material, reputational, regulatory, legal, and operational
It's not
risk
bargaining if they
and
don't have a
creates
say.
workforce uncertainty. In the post-pandemic context of workforce organizing efforts at other major companies and growing interest in unionization, an explicit commitment to freedom of association and collective bargaining is essential. We
You can
urge
try
the
to
board
unionize, they'll just
clarify the
fire you.
company's
That's their
policies
bargain.
and practices to respect rights to freedom of association and collective bargaining in
If you don't
its
like it, don't work there.
operations. Fellow shareholders, I urge you to vote for this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pauli. The seventh stockholder proposal is an advisory vote regarding additional reporting on child labor. Our board has recommended that our stockholders vote against this stockholder proposal.
We're going to LFP anyway.
The stockholder proposal is proposed by the Sisters of the Good Shepherd, whose representative, Sister Winifred Dorothy, is on the line to present the proposal. Sister Dorothy, I would like to invite you to speak. You will have 3 minutes.
The quest for clean energy, while admirable, overtly perpetuates violations of children's human rights, especially with regard to child labour. Good evening, and thank you for this opportunity. My name is
That's as loud as I can make it, by the way.
And I am representing the Sisters of the Good Shepherd, New York Province, which is a Tesla shareholder and the lead filer of this proposal, requesting Tesla issue a public report on how it will eradicate child labour in its factory supply chain by 2025. I hereby move Proposal 12 and encourage your support for this proposal. This ask is supported by the New York State Common Retirement Fund and international rights advocates. The Sisters of the Good Shepherd support the education and sustainable development of children and their families in cobalt mining communities in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Good Shepherd's mission partners have witnessed firsthand the harms on the health, development, and education of children who are exploited by child labour and cheap labour and often enticed to work by a few coins. The harsh working conditions, lack of safety standards, and reports of abuse place every child at risk. Poverty,
Just cobalt.
injury, and in some cases, even death is a daily reality. Article 32 of the Rights of the Child states that the child has the right to be protected from economic exploitation and from performing any work that is likely to be hazardous to or interfere with the child's education or to be harmful to the child's health or physical, mental, spiritual, moral, or social development. Despite Tesla's claim that no child labor has been detected,
Apple
in
buys
its
more
EV
cobalt than
battery
Tesla does.
supply chains, the company
The phone you're watching this on probably has more
for
cobalt than
allegedly
Tesla.
aiding and abetting in the death and serious injury of children who claim they were working in cobalt mines in their supply chains. As stated in the resolution, child labour in the cobalt supply chain exposes Tesla and you, its investors, to financial, legal and reputational risks. We demand supplier criteria that are binding, enforceable and regularly monitored by independent auditors for compliance
I think she's
with
over.
international laws prohibiting child labour and with the company's own written policies.
Sister Dorothy, I would like to remind you that 3 minutes have passed.
I don't understand what they think the proposal would change. It's still Tesla hiring
Thank
people
you.
to tell them We're not.
Thank you, Sister Dorothy.
We're not using child labor.
And the final
We're
and
still
the
not
eighth
using
stockholder
child labor.
proposal is an advisory vote regarding reporting on water risk. Our board has recommended to vote against this stockholder proposal. This stockholder proposal is proposed by JZD Investments, whose representative Elizabeth Levi from, as you saw,
Oil
is on the
refining
line
uses
to present the
cobalt.
proposal. Ms. Levi, I would like to invite you to speak. You will have 3 minutes.
Good afternoon, Chairman, members of the board. My name is Elizabeth Levy. Thank you for the opportunity to present proposal number 13. Climate change is causing more intense droughts globally, and those droughts are predicted to worsen. This climate change-related water scarcity poses material
They
risks
use
to
the
our
least
companies.
amount of water of any
Large
factory.
water-reliant manufacturing plants, including our companies, are facing increasing competition from high-value uses such as drinking water and agriculture, among others.
This is what the whole dry
This
electrode
competition
process
for
is
water
about.
resources will only become stronger. Tesla's automotive manufacturing uses significant amounts of water. Many of Tesla's plants operate in water-stressed areas where our company's water use has generated public and ongoing controversy. Tesla's supply chains are also increasingly subject to water risk. While Tesla has provided information on global water efficiency and is exploring ways to reduce water consumption, shareholders have no meaningful way to put these actions into context. Generalized company-wide water use data does not address the issue of location-based risk. Each location in which Tesla operates is unique in its water risk. Every region has different levels of water strain and scarcity, use,
You don't think they
and
know that?
competition.
They have to get approved by the cities
Without
to turn these
site-specific use
factories on.
information, investors cannot accurately assess material risk. Such risks include the potential for operations disruptions due to climate-related water depletion, overconsumption, or competition. The company also fails to address how it can reduce the contentiousness of its interactions with communities in water-constrained areas, which increasingly poses reputational risk to the company. Disclosing water use information will increase public goodwill and will provide investors with the data necessary to assess water-related risk.
You don't trust
This
him
is
now. Why
not
would you
a
trust
choice
him
between
after the
making good
proposal?
vehicles and providing the
They're
requested
telling you
data.
it's low water
As
consumption,
one of
and
the
then
top 10
that's not
valued
enough. They should tell
companies
me
globally,
more.
Tesla has the resources and the know-how to do both. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Levi. Please note that now is the final opportunity to submit any proxies in order for them to be counted.
They did these same proposals for like 3 years in a row now, I think.
I declare that the polls are now closed.
Right? Yeah. Let's just get on with it.
Based on the proxies that we have previously received, I'd like to announce on preliminary basis that our stockholders have approved the recommendation of Tesla board on all agenda items except item number 2 regarding the reduction of director terms to 2 years. Item 3 regarding elimination of applicable supermajority voting requirements, and item 6 for an advisory vote regarding proxy access. While over 98% and 97% respectively of the shares present and entitled to vote on items 2 and 3 did so, as recommended by the board, unfortunately, less than 2/3 of total outstanding shares, which were required to approve these items, submitted votes for these items.
There you go.
After the final tabulation is completed, we will formally announce the results of the voting by forming a Form 8K within 4 business days of today's meeting. That concludes the official business of today's shareholder meeting, which is now adjourned.
Okay. We're through the proposal section. Let's get to the good stuff, please.
We will now move into the company update presentation by Elon. If you're currently joining through the virtual meeting site, please go to tesla.com/2022 shareholder meeting to continue to watch the presentation.
What?
During the course of the following session, we may discuss our business outlook and make other forward-looking statements.
Don't make me move.
Such statements are predictions based on our current expectations. Actual events or results could differ materially due to a number of risks and uncertainties, including those disclosed in our most recent filing 10-Q with the SEC. Such forward-looking statements represent our views as of today, should not be relied on thereafter, and we disclaim any obligation to update them after today. And with that, please welcome Elon Musk.
All right. Techno Kings entering the building. Hey, I don't think he cut his hair this time.
Welcome.
His camera's still out of focus.
Well, I feel welcome. So, well, it's great to see everyone here. Welcome.
It's not that kind of meeting. Ooh. That's a cool. I like that design.
So, yeah, welcome to Giga Texas.
I'm so welcome. Does he know what to say?
All right, so let's see. I'll go over, kind of recount the year. It's been an amazing year. The Tesla team has done amazing work. And I have to say, like, one of the things that I was like, what do you enjoy most in life? I really, being able to work with a super talented group of people and to create great products and manufacture those products and deliver them to people and make people happy from those products, that's one of the best things in life. So.
That's America. You get 3 minutes, Elon.
So yeah, I'd just like to say what an honor it is to work with such a talented team at Tesla, and that's the reason we've been able to do all these things. So,
wow.
Yeah, we're aiming to achieve a 2 million vehicle run rate by the end of the year.
Oh my God. That's awesome. They're at 1.5 million in June.
This is the best crowd. I mean,
everyone keeps shouting things. That'll be in a lot of stock pictures. Tesla stock is up.
I mean,
sit down, people. We don't need to applaud for an hour. Okay, that's enough. Relax.
I love you guys too. So, anyway, thanks to the hard work of the Tesla team, we've already been able to achieve a 1.5 million unit annualized run rate. And depending on how the rest of this year goes, I think we might get close to, or we'll get approximately at the 1.5 million mark, and be exiting the year at a 2 million unit run rate. And then also worth noting, just recently, in the last a few weeks, we made our 3 millionth car. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Impressive. And none of those Teslas is mine.
You know,
Dang it.
Ugh. It's pretty wild to think, like, 10 years ago, where things were, you know? 10 years, August 2012, we'd made 2,500 Roadsters, and I think maybe a couple of hundred Model S's-ish, but less than 3,000 cars. So 10 years ago, we'd made less than 3,000 cars. And here we stand 10 years later, having made over 3 million.
That's impressive. Yeah, that's a big milestone. That's awesome.
And actually, this is one of the cleanest exponentials I've, you know.
It's pretty clean.
It looks like one of those sort of, you know, business plan presentation things that doesn't actually come true, but, you know, you see it in the venture capital business plan situation. But it's actually true. That's the amazing part. Yeah.
Stock is up, I guess. That's good.
Yeah.
Don't let people shout.
Yeah, we're doing okay on demand.
Stop.
Thank you.
Oh my God. Shut up. Can't hear you.
So, yeah, it's great here. I love California too, to be frank. I'm gonna be clear. You know. Oh, come on.
It's hot.
We got great teams in California, and we got a great team in China and Shanghai, and a great team in Berlin and Germany and Europe. It's so.
They love to thank themselves.
Yeah.
Good team.
And I thought it's interesting to look at the cumulative profitability since inception. And this approximately tracks to sort of mental pain, actually. This psychic damage.
Illness.
That green curve is approximately correct. But I'm just very proud of the fact that we've actually been able to produce more cash than we have spent, and have positive retained earnings and be worth our salt, essentially. And that's a really big deal. And it's very hard. So, I mean, this is a big deal, and I think it's going to go up from here.
Likely. Safe assumption. Fair enough. I can't hear
So,
what you're saying.
you can see we obviously had some challenges there in 2017. And then, but since then, our free cash flow generation has been very good and trending upwards. And this is really before autonomy really kicks in. We have autonomy to some degree. But solving autonomy is will really be an amplification of free cash flow to a degree that is. You know, you run the numbers and it's like, wow, can it really be that crazy? But it could be that crazy.
No.
And you know, this year, I swear.
Don't. Oh my God, you're killing me. It feels like he's joking about it.
We got anyone here in the FSD beta program?
Obviously.
Sweet. Yeah, no, totally. Okay, well, I thought.
Oh my God.
All right.
Can we get these people to shut up?
I thought you might ask that. Because it's 10.13 we've been working on for a while, and actually what's sort of happened is we've made some pretty significant architectural improvements. So it's really going to be more than a 10.12 to 10.13 release. It might, I don't want to speak too soon, it might qualify for 10.69. So.
Yep. There's your meme for the day.
It's got to earn that, obviously. Can't just throw that out, you know. But there's a lot of improvements.
Funny number.
And especially in
funny
complex left turns. And yeah, we're going to solve Chuck's turn. Yes.
Wow.
100%.
How do you know?
Absolutely. We have a lot of respect for valid criticism. I think we're at roughly 90% success rate with your turn. So, yeah, we're almost at 100. So
10% can take a lot.
It's looking good. And yeah, so I mean, I'm hopeful. It might be a week next week.
Stop it. Stop it.
Yeah, 2 weeks.
Don't even try. Don't even.
Yeah.
Move on.
It's working well for me.
Hit the button on the PowerPoint. Go to the next slide.
Yeah. So anyway, teams like working literally 7 days a week and making major improvements. And it's really interesting because we're effectively solving an important aspect of artificial intelligence, real-world AI for self-driving, which, when you think about it, kind of is what's needed to solve self-driving. Because how is the road system designed? It's designed
Your
for
3 minutes
a
are up.
biological neural net and eyes. And so naturally, the thing that would therefore work
I'm sorry,
the silicon
Elon?
analog is cameras and silicon neural nets. And so sort of by accident, we're actually solving an important, I think, very useful element of artificial intelligence. And
Haven't solved
I definitely want people out there, talented people who are working on AI to consider working at Tesla, because I think we're solving just a very important part of AI and one that can ultimately save millions of lives and prevent tens of millions of serious injuries by driving just an order of magnitude safer than people. And there used to be a time back in the day where we'd have, this is super important. So. I mean, there used to be a time when we'd have elevator operators, and it was normal to have elevator operators and have like a big relay and stuff.
Up,
But
down.
every now and again you make a mistake and shear somebody in half. So I'd be like, oh, okay. Then we went to automated elevators, and you press a button and you go to your floor, and it just works. And that's kind of how it's going to be in the future with cars. So.
I can't even begin to describe how different those two situations are.
And then we'll have lots of interesting things to say on AI Day at the end of next month. So I'll leave that to next month. Yeah.
No bot today.
When we started out here, obviously we were told electric cars were impossible, and even if you could make an electric car with a couple hundred miles range, then nobody would buy it anyway because people just love gasoline cars. So. When we started out, it was dumb to start a car company, and then dumb squared to do an electric car company.
Dumb squared.
And we were told, you're never going to make money, etc. And we didn't for a while, but now we have the highest operating margin in the whole industry. So.
They make more money than any other car maker.
Exactly. Exactly. Tesla is not just a car company. Tesla is many companies in one, and we're as much a software company as we are a hardware company. So
I agree.
And that's really going to be obviously essential for the future. And software, both in the car and obviously with neural net training, but also software in the factory as well. So you can think of the factory as a
microchip.
Giant cybernetic collective. So a factory is just an enormous cybernetic collective of humans and machines and software. And the better the software is, the better that cybernetic collective works.
The factory is my brain.
I don't think other OEMs think like that. But that's what it is. So, there's a lot of talk of competition among electric vehicles, but really, the EVs electric vehicles taking market share from gasoline cars. So, yeah. So.
Well, we don't know that.
And from a Tesla standpoint, we obviously welcome this, and we're very excited to see that the big car companies are embracing electric vehicles. If you were to rewind their press releases to 5 years ago, that was not the case. They were, not saying nice things about electric vehicles five years ago. But now, I believe almost every major car company in the world has embraced electrification and agrees that it is the right path. And this is really what we set out to do with Tesla. It was not to get maximum market share or anything. It was really try to show the auto industry that it was possible to go electric, and that if you made compelling electric cars, people would buy them. And that's what's happened, and I think that's really profound. So, yeah.
You got that. Let's talk about the future, please.
Also, when our competitors advertise for electric vehicles, every time they do that, our sales go up.
Ooh.
So,
Wow.
it's pretty funny. Yeah. But we do, we have open sourced all our patents so they can use our patents for free. And so we're, helping out. And I think it's sort of a mutual prosperity thing, and it's good. So, yeah, so Model Y.
Globally?
You don't want, definitely don't want to count chickens until they're hatched, but I think we're tracking to have Model Y be the highest
On track, I see.
selling vehicle by revenue this year, and the highest by unit volume next year. So,
Yeah, revenue makes sense. It's a very expensive car, but it sells really well, basically in every country it's available.
still a lot of work to do. Like these factories don't just magically work.
What?
So still a lot of work to do in Berlin and here in Austin to spool up these 2 gigafactories. And we've got different supply chains, and so it's always, there's a host of problems. None of the problems are individually all that difficult, but there's like 10,000 of them. So the rate of production is like, how fast can you solve the 10,000 problems, essentially? And we're solving them pretty fast, but a lot of work to do. And we might be able to announce another factory location later this year.
Oh, not today? Okay, it's probably decided. I hope he doesn't count Shanghai. We're just making Shanghai bigger. They've got a location.
Where should we? Okay, where should we build it?
Shout it out, everybody.
Okay, we got a lot of Canadas.
Everyone said Canada.
Well, I'm half Canadian, so maybe I should, yeah. Well, I think ultimately we'll end up building, I don't know, probably at least 10 or 12 gigafactories, and there will be really gigafactories like output, aiming for average output of like 1.5 to 2 million units per factory, which is enormous. So. And our Fremont factory in California is already the highest output factory in North America. So
That's true. It's probably Indonesia, yeah.
sorry? Well, I think we'll have a friendly competition between Texas, California, Berlin. Shanghai is hard to beat, I have to say. Shanghai is our Shanghai team is just awesome. So they're yeah, anyway. great team there. So with respect to, sometimes we get this sort of, these bogus attacks of like EVs are somehow worse than gasoline cars, which is not true. The average life cycle emissions of an EV are dramatically lower than that of a gasoline car. I'm kind of telling you things you already know. But every now and again you think surely this nonsense has been put to bed, but it pops up again. But it's obviously an electric car is just dramatically lower CO2 lifetime than a gasoline car. So anyway, that's kind of obvious. Now this is the thing that I think is super cool. If you add up all the energy produced over the last 10 years by Tesla solar panels, it is more energy than was used to manufacture all of our cars and charge all of our cars at superchargers and at home. This is...
Yep. We kind of covered it, but it's still good. We know. I want to talk about future projections.
And I mean, the mission of Tesla is to accelerate sustainability. And I think this is really amazing, more energy produced than was used in making the car and charging them over billions of miles. So, and we're going to keep obviously increasing our solar activity. and vehicles, and try to keep these on par. Because the three elements of a sustainable energy future are sustainable energy production, primarily with solar and wind, and then stationary battery packs to store the sustainable energy because of its wind and solar are intermittent, and then electric transport. And if you have those three pillars, you have a fully sustainable future.
Look at this graph.
And yeah, so yeah. So.
Good graphs, Elon. 10 out of 10. Impressive graph.
And obviously, battery packs are very recyclable. You can think of it like high-grade ore. Do you want to, crunch up a bunch of rocks or crunch up a battery pack, which is like super high-grade ore? So it's a no-brainer to recycle battery packs. Battery pack. We are already recycling. I should point this out. So sometimes people wonder what's happening. We're already recycling at over 50 a week in Nevada. 50 a week. Tesla battery recycling is already underway, has been underway, and is scaling up. Now, cars are lasting quite a long time, so there's not that many batteries to actually recycle because you kind of have to typically wait like 12 years or something, like quite a long time before the battery actually is no longer useful. Sometimes 15 years. So recycling starts off small, but then it becomes very significant long term.
50 a week, that's quite a bit.
So
they didn't put a number on it before.
Some factory footage, obviously.
I don't think he's seen this presentation a single time.
Just 50 packs a week, yeah. So, yeah, that's what I was saying. Like, there's actually just not that many packs to recycle because there's not, the vast majority of them are still in use.
Who designs these presentations?
Sorry? Oh, yes, exactly. Mass Plan 3. Where is that thing?
What did he say?
So Mass Plan 3 is going to be fundamentally about scaling. Just looking at the overall problem from a global macroeconomic standpoint and saying, what are all the things that are needed to achieve a fully sustainable economy? Because I think a lot of people don't know. And really, like, what tonnage of lithium, of cathode, anode, separator electrolyte, electronics.
Millions.
What are all the things that are needed, what are all the things that need to be done in order to transition to a fully sustainable global economy? Which I think, the sooner we do that, the better for the planet.
Memes.
And I think just articulating that and just making it clear that this is absolutely doable and it is being done, and we just want it to be done as fast as possible. Because I think a lot of times, I meet a lot of people out there who have lost hope. They think it's too late, and they think there's no chance, and the Earth is doomed.
They're fun.
It's like it's not doomed. Okay.
And also, even if we are, should we stop trying? Should we just give up if we are? Let's just not even try. What's the point? These are better cars. I would rather drive a Tesla than a gas car, even if the world is doomed.
Earth can and will be saved. Yeah.
By me. I will repopulate the world.
In addition to battery advancements and electronics advancements and AI, we've also done a lot to simplify the structure of cars to make it easier to manufacture. And one of the things we've done is create the largest castings that have ever been done. And they're very complex castings. And so we're able to take 171 pieces of metal and go from 171 pieces to 2.
Bring the
and in the process make it lighter,
to the 3, please.
Stiffer, with better ride handling, better noise, vibration, harshness, better sealing against water. So it's really better in every way.
Please.
And
casting on the 3. Please. You could build so many more Model 3s And I could get one.
So, and we're going to keep enhancing the casting. So this is a testament to our materials team and to we have a lot of casting technology. So we're really rethinking the whole way in which a car is made. And it's a gigantic improvement.
Just start pumping out cars.
We have, at this point, going from, say, Model S or even Model 3, we're at about 30% of the robots used for Model 3, for a current Model Y. So, yeah.
That's good. We need less robots, but we're going to build more Tesla bots at the same time.
We've also improved the layout of the factory. So the factory is sort of a single, close to a single monolithic factory.
This is a really old slide.
With a very straightforward flow. Fremont, we do a lot in Fremont, but the flow is complex, and it's not an easy flow. So we're really rethinking the factory, and I think if the really long-term sustainable advantage of Tesla will be manufacturing. I mentioned this before.
Yeah.
But obviously, everyone will have electric cars. All manufacturers will have electric cars.
Maybe
and
not Toyota. They recall
eventually, it'll probably take longer than they think, but eventually all cars will be self-driving. And the thing that will be hardest to replicate is Tesla's manufacturing technology. So this is actually very important from a long-term standpoint.
Okay. Yes, I'm drunk. I'm probably just getting too hot.
You know, when thinking about the competitiveness of companies, especially if the companies are technology companies, I recommend looking at where the smartest engineers want to work.
Why does no one want to work at
This
AMD?
is wherever the smartest engineers want to work.
Blue Origin?
That's going to be that technology company is going to be the one that is likely to succeed. Just like if it's a pro sports team, where are the ace players going? Okay, probably that team will win.
I don't know, Tesla.
So we put a lot of effort into ensuring that the best engineers in the world want to work at Tesla. And frankly, sometimes Tesla's number one, sometimes SpaceX number one. But so this was just like last year.
SpaceX has you beat.
But and we do actually, for those curious and maybe want to work at either SpaceX or Tesla, we do allow people to move from one company to the other if they would like. So if you want to spend a bit of time working on electric vehicles, a bit of time spending working on rockets, you can. That's cool. We support that.
Can they do that?
So yeah.
That seems unfair. We go back and forth. I don't like rockets this week.
And we've also made a lot of improvement with factory safety. So I think we believe we now have the best factory safety in the industry, and so we're excited to
below average
have very good safety and getting better. So yeah.
Let's get that to
And
zero.
a bunch of this is driven by just encouraging people within the factory to submit ideas for safety improvement. And we've passed our goal of 3 suggestions per employee in, this year. And this really is the game changer for improving safety. So, and
people suggest change. Yo, I'm gonna die. Don't let me.
You don't have to clap after every slide unless you really want to, but. But
I'll clean I'll clean
so
the floors.
there's a lot of interest in working at Tesla. We had 3 million job applications last year. So, sorry? Yeah, it's true.
What?
So, a lot of interest in working at Tesla.
I'll never know what he said.
Now, some people may occasionally have encountered a supercharger that didn't work. But in general, the uptime of our superchargers is extremely good.
This could have been a better
We just try to make
graph.
it super smooth, and because our superchargers are always connected, like the car is always connected, our feedback loop for fixing a supercharger is very quick.
I would have shown 80 to 100%.
And obviously we keep upgrading the supercharger capability. We're now at version 3. We'll start rolling out version 4. I don't know, maybe next year. So it just the superchargers get better and better. And
I want to hear V4 stats, please.
who knows, Dev? Yeah. Actually, I don't want to give away the.
What is this for?
But let's just say that there's some cool stuff happening on the supercharging front. So
Cool. They're making suggestions.
Alaska, yes.
Everywhere. Don't single out one state.
All right. Well, we're basically doubling our supercharger count every year. So if there isn't a supercharger in some place that you think is important, it probably will be there soon. So.
Okay, well, that's good.
We've also made a lot of progress on safety. So our cars are already the safest in the industry.
Whoa.
So we have the lowest probability of injury of any cars ever tested by the U.S. government. And we update this in real time. So because our cars are connected, this is a big difference. All the other cars, with rare exception, are not connected. So the manufacturers don't really know what happened in a crash. But in the case of Tesla, we are able to look at crashes and see how can we improve the safety and look at the crashes, improve the crash structure. Also,
You're better than
improve
everyone.
how
We
the
get it.
seat belts tension and how the airbags deploy.
That's me
So
driving my
in these
Model 3.
updates, if we figure out, there's a slightly better way to deploy the airbags to improve the safety in a crash, we'll actually do an over-the-air update to improve the way that the airbags deploy.
Why does he have clown paint on?
Seatbelt pretensions. And we're now starting to include
short seller.
Tesla Autopilot AI to be able to see if a crash is about to occur, and if it sees that a crash is about to occur with 99+% probability, then it will activate the seatbelt pretensioners and deploy the airbags, as opposed to what the vast majority of cars do is the vast majority of cars are only able to deploy airbags when the crash is happening. And so that makes the airbag deployment a lot more violent, but if you can anticipate the crash, the airbag deployment can be much better than just impact.
What if it went off and you didn't get in a crash? That's how we protect the short seller in the car.
We're also seeing FSD beta grow very rapidly. And this is definitely going to go very exponential in miles driven. So we're now at over 40 million miles. And I suspect by the end of this year, we'll be, well over 100 million miles. So, and we're still tracking very much to have widespread deployment of FSD beta this year in North America. So I'm
How confident?
So,
we'll see if you
I should say, if basically FSD beta will be available to anyone who requests it by the end of this year. So
I request it. I don't want to pay for it, but I'll request it. Whoa!
So,
ooh, it's got
AI
hands.
Day Part 2, I think people will be blown away, but that's at the end of next month, so we'll leave that, except there's going to be a lot of cool stuff.
I just hope I have my car by then.
I'm sort of surprised that people, or at least like analysts out there, are not really understanding the importance of the Optimus robot.
That's how I would make the heart.
My guess is Optimus will be more valuable than the car than long term.
We'll see.
And in fact, it'll, I think, turn the whole notion of what's an economy on its head.
Can it walk downstairs?
At the point at which you have no shortage of labor. An economy is GDP per capita. If you do not have a capita constraint, then the economy just can be arbitrarily huge. So, yeah, it's sort of crazy. Anyway, and thank you for voting. So, your vote matters, and it's great to have direct
outdated
contact with
picture.
Individual shareholders. And
Now it
thank you
says Tesla
for
on the
voting
top.
to support our proposals. So.
I voted. I need a bot. I have no friends. We have enough bots on Twitter.
So
Now
the
you're
next
making bots?
decade.
Ooh. Yes. Cybertruck, Cybertruck, Cyber. Ooh, he's got to write a whole paragraph in his brain.
I wonder how many cars we'll have in 10 years.
30 million?
Yeah, 10 years ago, we had less than 3,000 cars. Now we've made 3 million. 300 million.
I don't think. No, stop. Just no.
I'd say 100 million's pretty doable.
Whoa.
So,
100 million in 10 years?
I'd be surprised if it's not over 100 million in 10 years. And then
That's insane.
many other products, some of which you've heard about, some of which you have not.
Robotaxi, we get it.
So,
Just focus
blurt
on
it out. All right. So we've got some questions from the internet that go to the top. So I'll answer these questions, and then we'll take just questions from the audience.
Give me the truck.
And
Give me that
so
truck.
one of the questions is, how does Tesla intend to utilize cash in the coming years? Will we
Build more
increase capex? Well, I guess you can read the question. Share buybacks, dividends, or acquisitions?
No.
Well, it's interesting, Tesla's actually done very few acquisitions. Apart from the Solar City acquisition, it was the only really big acquisition we did, and then the next largest would be Tesla Groman. But Tesla's actually used a remarkably small amount of its equity to do acquisitions compared to other companies. The vast majority of our growth, basically 90% of our growth, has been organic, which I think is actually a really good thing. But if we do see interesting companies, we will acquire them. But it's quite rare for us to acquire a company.
Maxwell, you didn't mention it.
But we are interested in companies that are very good at manufacturing automation, software, AI, manufacturing technology in general, that kind of thing. We certainly will increase capex. We're actually spending we're spending capex money and R&D money as fast as we can do so without wasting it. So this is not a constraint. If we try to spend it any faster, we'd just be wasting money. So we're cranking hard on capex and R&D.
10 or 12 factories, he said, total.
Depending on what our future cash flow looks like, I think a sort of share buyback is possible. I wouldn't want to commit to that, but let's just make sure, that there's not some force majeure event somewhere.
What
I think we want to make sure we have plenty of capital, and that future cash flow is looking very solid, and the world is relatively stable, and then I think share buyback is on the table.
I think you got it. I think you're good. It's just someone scrolling.
So how many factories are necessary to achieve 20 million vehicles?
10 or 12.
I think probably roughly a dozen.
Yep.
So we're aiming for
how many do you have?
1.5 to 2 million units per factory. Now, our factory in California, we're just running out of room, so it's hard to get more than maybe 700 or 800,000 vehicles a year out of there. But most places will be aiming for 1.5 to 2. So a dozen sites. Although we are aiming for giant monolithic buildings.
Big building.
Cybertruck pricing, it was unveiled in 2019, and the reservation was $99. So
it was 100.
A lot has changed since then. So the specs and the pricing will be different. I hate to sort of give a little bit of bad news, but I think there's no way to sort of have anticipated quite the inflation that we've seen and the various issues. But what I can say is that the Cybertruck will be one hell of a product, and it's going to be like a damn fine machine.
And expensive.
Yeah.
There you have it. Won't be the price as the unveiling.
and we are tracking to be in production middle of next year from this factory. So that we're going to be installing the production equipment, tooling and all, starting the next couple of months. We'll begin the installation. So aiming to be in volume production middle of next year.
Okay, next couple months they're installing equipment. There's your update, and the pricing is not accurate.
Now, what could possibly go wrong in answering this question?
Why did someone ask that? What kind of a question is that?
Oh, man. All right, so...
How do you answer that question? There's no good way to answer that.
I should just pass. Well, let me just say that, you know, I hope for peace and respect. Fair enough. Yeah. Yeah, good advice.
That's true. Tesla doesn't have views. They're a company.
So we're deploying superchargers wherever we see the greatest need. Now, sometimes the greatest need is in some place that is extremely difficult to get permits. Like getting a permit in Malibu was nuts. Like, it's next level. That took years.
I didn't think about it.
So some places are hard to get permits, and some places are easier. But we are aiming to just generally, we analyze the supercharger usage every day, and we prioritize supercharger locations according to where we see the greatest need. With respect...
Stop.
What, sorry, where? Well, you know, maybe we should do an online poll for where should we put superchargers?
Oh, that would be abused. People would abuse the crap at it. At my house.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, we'll do that.
Wow.
So, I mean, with respect to amenities
that was easy.
With superchargers, I think we'll do a couple of just fun things. Like we're going to do a really fun supercharger location in LA. And the general vision is to have something that's like a futuristic, kind of like diner, sort of like, I don't know, Blade Runner meets Grease meets Jetsons, yeah. You know, something cool, different, but with some style, and where you can, you know, get, you know, some great food, and the one in LA, we're planning to have like these big screens at the supercharger location.
Not if the charging is this fast.
Be aiming to show like the 100 greatest movie clips of all time, and so you can like, you know, have a cheeseburger and charge your car and watch some cool stuff on the screen.
I want a burger.
And it'll be open to others who are not, you know, you can come to the restaurant even if you don't own a Tesla, but it'll be like a little gem, I think, there in LA. And then depending on how that goes, we might roll that out to a few other places. But we'll try to do interesting, fun things that are not necessarily economically sensible, but they're cool.
Burger. Invest more in the burger business.
So, 4680. This is not an easy one to answer. We are making a decent number every week, and
it's tricky.
I think we will be in high volume production by the end of this year. It's always difficult to predict. This is because a lot of new technology. What's the slope of the S-curve on ramp? And except that I'm confident we will get to the high production rate, but it's probably end of this year before we get confidently to a high production rate.
What does that mean?
But this does not affect our vehicle output. We actually have enough supply from enough battery cell supply from suppliers to make 1.5 million cars this year. So it's not a constraint on output, but it will be important for next year. And
Cybertruck needs it, yeah.
New master plan is not yet ready. I don't know, maybe aim to get it done this month. But like I said, it's going to be just looking at the big picture. What does it take to make Earth fully self-sustaining from an energy standpoint? And
it's just scale. That's
yeah,
all.
Just map it out and say this is what needs to be done.
Ramp it up.
Tesla will try to be as useful as possible in this regard, and hopefully lots of other companies can join in and help accelerate the sustainable energy revolution. So.
Fair enough, yeah.
With peak inflation behind us. So the inflation question is interesting because we do get a fair bit of insight into where prices of things are going over time. Because when you're making millions of cars, you have to purchase commodities many months in advance of when they're needed.
Where's
so
the semi, Elon?
Because it's a very long supply chain with a tremendous amount of inertia. So we sort of have some insight into where prices are headed over time. And the interesting thing that we're seeing now is that most of our commodities, most of the things that go into a Tesla, not all, but I don't know, more than half, the prices are trending down in 6 months, 6 months from now. Now this could change, obviously, but the trend is down, which suggests that we are past peak inflation. Now making macroeconomic prognostications is a recipe for disaster, but my guess is that we are past peak inflation, and that we will have a recession. I think it will be a relatively mild recession, sort of.
That's good.
But I'm just guessing here. This is total speculation. But I would guess it's a mild recession for, I don't know, 18 months or something like that. It would be my best guess right now. We don't have fundamental capital misallocations in the U.S. as we have had in the past, like leading up to 2008, where we were building primary housing units at twice the rate of household formation, which obviously doesn't make sense. And there were a lot of companies that were over-levered. The leverage or debt that companies have right now is relatively low.
Really? Ford?
So
has low debt?
Yeah, I would say probably mild, moderate recession, maybe 18 months-ish. And I think inflation is going to drop rapidly. That's my guess. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Don't do that. You're not a YouTuber.
Sound about right? Okay, great.
Who in the audience was?
All right, cool.
No.
Yeah, the Tesla robot essentially changing the economy. Like, how can we base an economy on automation, AI? With the full self-driving that's being implemented, you're going to have a full fleet of vehicles that can drive themselves. You'll have these robots that can go and get into your vehicle and place things. Will you be moving to a rental model, or how will you base a Tesla model on selling cars whenever these cars are fully automated, can drive wherever they would like, and
Tesla
hopefully
robot
would be applicable to having multiple people use the vehicle instead of just one person?
Tesla robot can do a lot.
Yeah, so it's interesting to think about an autonomous car because when you drive around, look at how many cars are parked. Like, they're just parking lots full of cars everywhere.
That's my
because cars need a driver, and so most of the time they're doing nothing. Typically a passenger car is going to be like 12 hours a week or something like that of usage. Now, if it's autonomous, maybe it can get to 50 or 60 hours of usage. Then that's sort of 4 or 5 fold improvement in the utility of a car. But the interesting thing is that the car still costs the same. So in that scenario, at least for some period of time, the effective gross margin on an autonomous car is kind of boggles the mind.
Maintenance
So
on a public utility, that's going to be bad.
in terms of how the cars will be operated, I mean, I think it would be, just you'd have the option of owning a car, using a car just occasionally when you need it, like an auto Uber or something like that. And there would be people, and then an owner of a car could decide that they want to use their car or they want to add or subtract it to the fleet. So I think it would end up being some kind of combination of like Airbnb and Uber or something like that.
Airbnb.
So sometimes you can go all the way from owning it to renting it sometimes, to renting it a lot, to completely renting it.
That's not like Airbnb.
But the utility of the car will just be mind-blowingly great. And then, like I said, Optimus will really bring the future to now. So.
The face.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe you could rent Optimus hourly.
They're not worried about the financial side. They're just trying to make it work.
I mean, assuming we get all these things, we do all these things, I think probably Tesla will be the most valuable company in the world.
That's not very hard at this point. You guys are close to the most valuable already.
Elon, hi. We all know how the media treats you.
Well.
Yeah. So I don't have a question for you today. I just want to say on behalf of my 6-year-old at home, Kyler Scott, that's watching right now, who thinks you're awesome as well, thank you for making the world a better place.
You don't need to do that here. You can do that on Twitter.
Thank you.
This isn't a thanking session. Ask some questions. Why is this a camera angle? The security camera.
Well, love you guys too. I mean, I just like to say thank you for helping make it happen. Because without you, without the early adopters of electric vehicles and sort of full self-driving, Tesla would not be where it is today. So thank you for your support.
He's like, oh, I haven't bought any of Tesla.
Sure.
I haven't supported you at all.
What a presentation. Thank you, Tesla team. It's an honor to be a stockholder. Elon, I brought you the final checkpoint for SpaceX, a mini moon. Maybe little X can play with it. My name is David Guajardo. I'm a former Brownsville resident. My first suggestion is to add a new steering mode option where the driver can select lazy mode and have the software accommodate between comfort, standard, and sport modes, depending on the speed the car is going. This will increase handling and safety. Second, when disengaging autopilot with the wheel, the accelerator stays on. Please fix it. Last one, weeks ago, talking to Mr. Sam Patel at Starbase, I told him that the team should add a tab in the SpaceX website and disclose what type of skills and preparation are going to be needed from us to accomplish the greatest adventure ever in human history, going to Mars.
Oh my God.
All right, well,
that's not even Tesla related.
Thanks for the suggestions. Those are good suggestions. Thank you. All right.
Fix it.
Sure.
That's my question. Fix it.
Hi. So I do actually have a question, but one thing that I want to ask is, like, people ask you all the questions. What do you think people miss and should be excited way more about? And what do you think people are fretting way too much about?
He just said that.
And shouldn't be worried at all?
He already explained that.
Yeah, it's a good point.
I actually have a question.
I think actually the questions and ideas posed by retail investors, like small retail investors, like I think many of you in the audience, are actually the most insightful. And I find it remarkable that, essentially amateur, like normal everyday people actually understand Tesla better than the analysts. I mean, you must see this as like, it's like, I mean, I think like to really say like, well, like what's the point of a company is the point of a company is to create useful products and services. A company should not exist in and of itself. It exists. It's a group of people gathered together to make products and services. And if those products and services are great, it's a valuable and useful company. And if they're not, it's not. And so really, to understand a company, you must use its products.
And they die.
And if you think the products are great, then the company's great. That's it. That's how it is. And so I think, ironically, a lot of the people that sort of professional analysts don't drive Teslas. So I'm like, well, okay, maybe you should. Yeah, cool. I mean, we aim to make Tesla the most amount of fun you can have in a car. So.
I just wish I had one.
Yeah, so let's see. So I think that there are a lot of really good and insightful ideas that I see on the internet, on Twitter and whatnot.
CarPlay.
Oh yeah, Twitter.
These faces. No Twitter.
So
there's a lot of chatter.
Yeah. So let's see. I think sometimes people fret a bit too much about short-term things which are clearly just just bumps in the road type of thing, where there might be a supplier shortage or some shutdown in some part of the world. But really, those things are clearly just kind of one-off items and don't really matter for the long term.
Okay.
The sort of
over-exaggeration.
The trend.
Panic.
Like looking at the sort of cumulative output and cumulative miles driven, and you can see that cumulative output is a very clean exponential. And so I guess sometimes people fret a little bit too much about this quarter or that quarter, but if you're a shareholder, a company is really like the net present value of future cash flows. And so what is one quarter is not really a big deal. I think if you see people panicking, then instead of saying, oh man, my stock's gone down, there's a buying opportunity. So.
He's been watching Stephen Mark Ryan, I think.
Hi, Elon. Thanks for the meeting. I became a Marine because I want to help protect your future base on Mars. My friends and I are trained, and we support the mission. Would you be open to this idea?
Yeah, Space Marines, absolutely.
It's in that Space Force.
Hi, Elon. A lot of Tesla's products today focus on electrical energy for a sustainable future.
Oh boy.
Do you foresee Tesla perhaps exploring thermal energy sustainable products other than HVAC? Like say, for example, in this Gigafactory, taking the residual heat from the gigapresses and applying them to, say, the drying ovens in your paint line.
That was a better question than I expected. I thought he was going to say hydrogen.
Dual use of if you use electricity to do something and then it generates heat and then you transporting that heat elsewhere within the factory, it's probably a good idea to do that actually. It is a sort of, I would say, a future optimization, but it is probably something worth doing in the factory, and it is something we do in the car.
There's a lot of losses.
So in the car, we carefully manage the electrical and the thermal energy, and so like one of the ways that we achieve a long range in cold weather is by both charging the pack and heating the pack. And then the pack acts as both an electrical and a thermal reservoir to achieve long range even in very cold climates. And so we're constantly, within the car, shuttling heat back and forth between motor power electronics, pack, and the cabin volume. So that same concept should be applied to a factory, I agree. Yeah.
Oh, that's probably the most insightful question.
Elon, what's up, man? My name is Justin. Some know me as SMD Capital on Twitter. I had the #1 voted question last earnings about scaling to extreme size. I have another big question I think a lot of people would want to know.
When Cybertruck?
In regards to when would Tesla launch their first pilot city for the Tesla network, the robotaxi business?
Probably San Francisco, I'm guessing. I don't think they want to do a city.
Well, you see, I think it's actually going to be probably much more widespread than that because Tesla is developing a general solution for self-driving, and it's not really specific to one city or location. Now, there's different regulatory requirements in various cities and states, so some locations will offer regulatory approval sooner than others, but we are aiming for a general solution. In fact, if you created a sort of a randomly generated alternate Earth, our system would still work. Like literally, like you had some sort of computer-generated Earth that obeyed roughly the same rules as current Earth. Our system is sufficiently generalized that it would work in a computer-generated alternate Earth.
Oh my God, is that SMD Capital?
So, yeah. So anyway,
I don't even remember what the question, Justin, was. Oh, where did it? Hey, it's Gary Black!
So, I'm Gary Black, managing partner of the Future Fund. Tesla's our largest position. Probably the thing we worry about most, it's not PR, but it's succession. So, key man risk is a big thing. How does the board think about your succession, and especially when you have, a judge is going to decide in a couple months whether or not you have to take over Twitter? How would you split your time?
Wow. Deep, hard question, Gary.
Well, I think Tesla is definitely gathering a lot of momentum, and we have a very exciting product roadmap that will last a long time. So now, obviously, execution against that roadmap is difficult because these are not simple products. They're not copies of what anyone else is doing. They're new things. But I intend to stay with Tesla as long as I can be useful. I can be most useful, I think, on the product design and manufacturing. So basically factory design, product design, and sort of manufacturing optimization. So, and we do have a very talented team here. So I think Tesla, would continue to do very well even if I was kidnapped by aliens.
Kidnapped or taken home.
or went back to my home planet, maybe.
You set that joke up yourself.
Confirmed. But no, I think it's a good question, and to be frank, I don't have an easy answer. Open to ideas. I'm basically working as hard as I can, and I'm very excited about the future of the company, and I think it's got a very bright future, even without me. And I'm not leaving, so to be clear. So, I obviously have to be a little careful about what I say about Twitter because, there's this lawsuit and stuff. So sometimes people get bent out of shape.
That's going to be.
But I do use Twitter a lot, so it's not like I'm randomly going around wanting to acquire companies or something. I'm not like a hedge fund. I'm not a hedge fund or a private equity firm or something. So, in fact, the only two publicly traded securities I own are Tesla and Twitter. That's it. So, and I think in the case of Twitter, since I use it a lot, shoot myself in the foot a lot, dig my grave, etc. But I think I do understand the product quite well, so I think I've got a good sense of where to point the engineering team at Twitter to make it radically better. I do sort of have a grander vision for what I thought X.com or X Corporation could have been back in the day. It's a pretty grand vision, and now obviously that could be started from scratch, but I think Twitter would help accelerate that by 3 to 5 years. So it's kind of like something I've thought would be quite useful for a long time. I know what to do. Don't have to have Twitter for that, but it's like I said, it's probably at least a 3-year accelerant.
Social media.
And I think it's something that will be very useful to the world.
You can't just pop up a social media company. It takes a lot of getting people to switch platforms.
How's it going, Elon? My name's Durrani, and with the projected release of the robo-taxi coming in the years ahead, would it be looked at as the Boring Company, would it be used to get regulation for full self-driving, and would it be a good venue for the robo-taxi? Also, my little brother Zane says hi, owns all Tesla Hot Wheels.
Okay, cool. Well, I said hi to him back.
Zane.
So, yeah, Boring Company is making good progress, actually. You know, for the longest time, people, like I'd give a talk somewhere and people say, what are opportunities you know about? I was like, tunnels. And they'd be like, for 5 years, I said, if somebody could just do a tunneling company, we can solve traffic, and we can have also very high-speed transport between cities. Because while I'm a fan of trains and I like high-speed trains, they do intersect you know, go through towns and neighborhoods and chop people's property in half, and they're very loud. So, but I want to be clear, I'm pro-train. Sometimes the train people, you know, I take every opportunity to go on interesting trains.
Pro-train.
So, but if you have a sort of a much simplified version of the Hyperloop, it's really just Teslas in a tunnel that's depressurized. You can go between cities super fast, and without disrupting the stuff above ground. So that's kind of the vision for the Boring Company, is to make roads 3D and have sort of an arbitrary number of layers of roads. And I think you can solve essentially any traffic problem in any city if you go 3D with tunnels, so multiple layers of tunnels going from, you know, connecting the city. And you can also turn a lot of the streets into parks, because you won't need to have cars on the roads. You won't need parking.
Do we need parks?
So I think Boring Company, is capable of much more transformation than it may seem. And we actually have an operational tunnel in Vegas right now. So
I saw it.
Yeah, if you go to Vegas, go to Resorts World, and you can hop in the tunnel and go to the convention center, and yeah, and you can pay in Doge. Exactly.
Oh boy.
I'm doing what I can to support Doge. So
everyone buy it. He said, Doge, buy it.
So, but yeah, I think Boring Company is going to do some pretty interesting things in the years to come. So let's see.
They're going to dig some holes.
Good afternoon, Elon. I think many people share my experience. I gave you, or at least Tesla, my complete family's legacy because I believed in it. And thank you for you and your company outperforming. I think you saved a lot of us. Thank you.
Yeah.
This guy's eyes.
Okay.
Look at his face.
So my question is this. Commercial aircraft have something called ACAS, where aircraft relay telemetry of their position between one another to prevent a collision.
Yeah, sometimes too much telemetry.
Yeah, thank you. So taking this to a higher level, do you see Teslas communicating with one another, and Dojo turning into some kind of ultimate air traffic control for Tesla supply chains and robotaxi? Thank you.
Actually, that's an interesting idea. I haven't thought about that. I mean, right now, our goal with Dojo is just to be really good at video training. So we actually already have, I think, maybe the fourth, and maybe approaching the third most powerful computing center in the world for AI training. Yeah, I think it might be third at this point. which obviously uses just an enormous number of GPUs and stuff. So, our first goal with Dojo is to make it competitive and be more effective at neural net training than a whole bunch of GPUs.
Using a bunch of GPUs.
We might, might get there soonish. And then, of course, it can be used for many other neural net training tasks. Fundamentally, it's a computer designed from the ground up to be optimized for neural net training, which really no computer that's never been done before. And yeah, so, and then maybe it'll do just traffic control. I haven't really thought of that. The Teslas probably, there'll be some merits to communicating, for Teslas to communicate to each other, but that won't be needed for full self-driving at all. And for a long time, the vast majority of cars on the road will be manually driven. So the value of Tesla to Tesla communication is not that high, except for perhaps communicating traffic issues or accidents, potholes, things that may be helpful to road closures and that kind of thing. So it's like you're getting real-time, a Tesla ahead of you has seen a road closure, and you get that real-time updated to your car so you don't get stuck in the road closure situation. That's the kind of stuff that I think we definitely, we are working on right now. So, all right.
All right, we have one last question, and it's yours.
Thank you very much. Hello, Elon.
Hey.
Simply, I would just like to say thank you for everything you've done for Earth and the community and everything you've done. Okay. I have one question, and aside from working for Tesla, being a shareholder, or purchasing a Tesla, how can the masses help push your vision?
All right, well, I think just generally, encouraging sustainable energy and being supportive of that, I think is really helpful.
Tell your friends about
it.
But
I say, you're doing great so far. So, like I said, without your support, Tesla wouldn't be where it is. So it's people like yourself and everyone in this room and out there, and the 3 million people who've bought our cars, and the millions who've gotten solar, and
many people
that all really helps make the world a better place for the future. And I'd say, definitely, I'd like to sort of convey a message of optimism about the future. And if we work, really hard to accelerate sustainable energy, sustainable transport, the future will be good. And I think just make sure people know that. And I'm not suggesting complacency at all. I'm literally saying if we work hard towards a sustainable future, we will achieve it. And the future was bright. So.
Yes, I agree. I like that.
Thank you.
Good optimism.
All right.
I guess that's it.
All right. Thanks, guys. Thank you. Thank you.
Guess we're at the end. Is this when the techno music starts? All right. We have reached the end of the stream, and it's very hot in here. Sorry, now you can all see how dang sweaty I am. Unfortunately, just for audio purposes, I don't have a great cooling system in here, so I apologize for the sweaty shirt and the sweaty look or whatever. I'm fine. I appreciate all the comments, but I'm fine. I'll be okay. Yeah, overall, though, it was a pretty uneventful earnings call. I think that I'd appreciate if they spent a little bit more time on the presentations instead of just rehashing old info. They could focus on some new projections or new outlooks or things to tell other companies, like, hey, Lucid, or hey, Rivian, this is what we think you should focus on, or that kind of thing. I still think that this would be a great time of the year to announce certain things. Like, he always starts to talk about something and then goes, well, I don't want to talk about that yet. And then they never talk about it again. It's like, are you going to have an event for V4 supercharging? Unless you plan on having an event for V4 supercharging, I think you should just talk about it now if you've got plans for it. And they said they were planning to launch it next year. Yeah, the Cybertruck got a little bit of an update, which is basically that the pricing is dated, and they don't expect the pricing of the Cybertruck to be like it was when they unveiled it, and that they plan on installing Cybertruck production equipment in the next couple months. So that basically confirms that, again, production is on track to start next year, middle of next year. 4680 batteries, like he said, are tricky, and they hope to be at high volume by the end of this year, so hopefully that'll be ready by the time of the truck. But I hope his answer mostly tells people that the Cybertruck pricing at unveil is not accurate, and we should not expect it to be accurate. So that's what I'm hoping is the takeaway from this, and people can have a bit more realistic expectations with the Cybertruck. It's not going to be as great as a value that we all were hoping it would be, which I think is a good expectation to set forward. And I try my best in all my Cybertruck videos to kind of temper expectations. And I do the same thing with FSD, you know, like they love to talk about Robotaxi and the Tesla bot and stuff, but it's just I've seen so much missed deadline after missed deadline after missed deadline that it's gotten to the point now where I'm like, okay, if it starts happening, then I'll happily say I was wrong, but it hasn't started happening yet. So yeah, Elon is terrified of the Lucid Armada. He said volume production middle of next year. Did he? Is that what he said? That's not what I caught. I heard them say they wanted to start deliveries middle of next year, and again, it's Elon, so don't put too much weight in that timeline. Like, I'm still convinced of, like, as long as there's a backlog of Model Ys, it will make more sense to just build more Model Ys than it will the Cybertruck. That's that's the main reason we're not getting the Cybertruck this year. The whole reason was because they had such a demand backlog for the Model Y, and I think now their thought process is, okay, well, let's ramp up Giga Texas to the most amount of Model Ys possible. And once we've ramped up Giga Texas, which will probably happen at some point next year, April, May, June, somewhere in there, once Model Ys are fully ramped, that's when they can start Cybertruck production. But people have an interesting take on Char and MCS, wondering if it'll get any traction. Well, yeah, Tesla's a part of it. But yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense for the semis to use MCS, and I'm hoping that we don't have another Tesla versus CCS connector situation again. That's if Tesla is a sensible company. I don't think it's about them being nonsensible. It's just about Tesla prioritizing the mission statement. And the AC is on. It's just not in this room. It's keeping other people cool in different parts of the house. And I could run a fan right now, but it would mess up the audio, so I'm not running it. But I appreciate you checking out for me and looking out for my climate control. I know. I if I want to turn it on, I can. It's okay. But Tesla's primary focus is just we need to deliver the most amount of cars, and if making the Cybertruck resulted in delivering less total cars, then they won't do it. So they're going to wait until they know for a fact with the Fremont factory and the Giga Texas factory in North America, they're building as many Model Ys as they possibly can. I guess even if there's a demand backlog at that point, there's probably not too much sense in pushing back the Cybertruck, because it's like, okay, well, we're going to use this section of the factory for the truck at some point, and there's still a backlog, so I guess we just need to raise prices until we can, you know, match demand or lower demand to match supply. So that's what we're waiting on. It's every time they talk about it, it feels more real, especially when he says that they're planning for new equipment to be installed. There was no mention of the new Roadster. That's absolutely the last thing I see them making. I feel like it would make more sense to build the Roadster than the Semi, just because the Roadster is not going to be a high-volume vehicle, and it's not going to require that many cells. So if you're trying to introduce new models that aren't too big a bottleneck on your batteries, the Roadster would be pretty easy. You would only have to build like 10 a month to say, like, okay, we're in production, and, you know, deliver them to the referral winners, the people who referred a bunch of Teslas. They're YouTubers, so if you deliver those Roadsters to the YouTubers, they'll make tons of videos on it, and that's really all the Roadster is marketing. It's not really displacing a large number of gas vehicles, if any gas vehicles. I bet most people who buy the Roadster already have a Tesla at this point. I'd be very surprised if there were a bunch of people waiting on the Roadster, but they were still driving gas cars. So basically, the Roadster is not going to be a big bottleneck, and I don't think it would need to be high volume. But the way Elon has referred to it is as dessert. You know, the Roadster is basically just pure marketing. It's just an advertisement for Tesla, which they don't really need in the first place. Hire more people and source more stuff for truck production. I mean, the space is already there. It's not just a people problem. For one, you can't just instantly hire more people on the spot. Tesla's constantly putting job openings, and sometimes there's just not enough qualified people that you're looking for applying for the positions you need. There is a labor shortage. That's a very real thing, and my brother-in-law works in the manufacturing and warehouse space, and he talks about that and how just you want people that are good qualified workers, but sometimes there's not enough people applying. So it's not like you can just say, okay, hire 100 people right now. It's like that takes time, and it's also a supply chain thing, like getting the gigapress installed and getting the 4680 cells ramped up. That's not from a lack of employees or from a lack of staff or a lack of spending. It's just engineers trying to figure out problems. How do we resolve this? How do we ramp up these cells? And how can we build them fast enough? How can we get this gigapress installed? How do we mass produce Tesla armored glass and the exoskeleton? This is going to require a bunch of very complicated, very challenging issues. And that's stuff you can't just throw money at and solve the problem. The Roadster is for bragging rights, right? Starting truck implies resources are available to do so, which could be used to address demand buildup at first. Demand build up at first. Well, the demand is already built up quite a bit. I find it hard to believe shareholders would be okay with installing equipment for a high volume product that doesn't have pricing. I mean, what's so strict about the pricing? Tesla knows that they'll sell every Cybertruck they make. That's not a problem. And the pricing on Tesla's vehicles changes constantly. The Model Y goes up, the Model 3 goes up. Model S and X went up like crazy. So even if Tesla told you it was, let's say today they announced the Cybertruck is $100,000. Of course they're not going to commit to that, because by the time they bring it to production, it might be more like $110,000. And because Tesla is willing to change prices multiple times within a couple weeks, I don't see why announcing the Cybertruck price now would be very useful, or why the shareholders are not okay with the price. I think it's unacceptable that we don't know the price of the Cybertruck. It's okay, sell your shares. Like, you want to miss out on the debate? Like, I don't think it ultimately matters, because I'm sure the Cybertruck will sell every model they make. If for some reason, I don't think it'll happen, but if for some reason the price is too high and people don't want to pay for it, then Tesla will lower prices. They proved that. They even show that at the event today, that the Model 3 was sold at a loss. They had negative margin on the Model 3 for several quarters in a row. So Tesla has really, really thick margins now. So if they feel like it, I don't think they will do this, but if they felt like it, they could sell the Cybertruck at a loss. If they started building them and realized, oh, wait, people don't like it, or the range isn't good enough, or the people don't like the design or whatever. If the demand was really low for it, they could sell it at a loss. And of course, they would have a backdoor plan to make it profitable. They'd be like, okay, what do we need to change? Do we need to make it cheaper? How do we make it cheaper? Do we need to make the range higher? And they would adjust accordingly. That's what Tesla's proven to be very good at, figuring out how to make a very desirable product and then how to sell every one they make. Tesla's not the kind of company to just have a bunch of vehicles sitting on a lot waiting around wondering, I wonder when people will start buying these things. It's like, no, if people aren't buying them, we're going to change the price, or we're going to change the product until people are buying them. They've always been that way. And I'm of the belief that the demand for the Cybertruck is so insanely high simply because it's a pickup truck and it's made by Tesla, which means it'll supercharge. Those three things alone, regardless of range, regardless of the aesthetics, regardless of how big the bed is, regardless of the 0 to 60 time, nothing else matters other than those three things. It's a pickup truck, so it's practical. Pickup trucks sell well in general. It's made by Tesla, who has substantial brand power and a lot of loyalty when it comes to the software, autopilot. People buy Teslas over non-Teslas, and they'll spend a premium to get a Tesla just because they know this has got the software I want, this has got autopilot, this has got, the futuristic mindset. It's also got a really solid mobile app, so I can control it with my phone, and it's futuristic. And it has supercharging access. Those three things alone just mean, okay, there's a ton of people that want to buy this truck. Now, on top of that, you add, okay, it's probably going to be the most aerodynamic pickup truck on the market. It's also going to be probably the fastest pickup truck. I fully expect it to outperform the Rivian in 0 to 60. So if you care about performance or towing capacity or bed length. It's going to have a huge bed. It's also going to be the most durable pickup truck of all time. The armored glass coupled with the exoskeleton, I think that watching the community blossom, which I'm thankful to be a part of, and I notice that every time I talk about the Cybertruck on my channel, it gets a lot of attention because the Cybertruck community is very large and very interested in any and all updates. No matter how small the update is, a lot of people want to know about any potential news on the Cybertruck. I think that's because the design has captured a lot of people's attention. It's iconic now, and it's just has this huge following that Tesla's not worried about demand for it, and that's why they're going to be comfortable to charge a lot for it. And powertrains ultimately don't really cost that much to Tesla, so I think because they're planning on charging so much for it, they're just going to make all quad motors, just because the difference between a tri-motor, dual motor, and a quad motor, honestly, the price of manufacturing those powertrains is not that different. It's just a great way to justify charging a lot more because it enables you to do a lot more stuff. If they don't honor, if they don't honor any of the Cybertruck pricing, it would still sell. I don't think that'll have an impact. Increasing the Cybertruck price, but they should honor the promise in regards. Again, should is different from will. Should they? Yes, but legally they could get away with not doing it, and because it's Tesla, I've seen them do this before. There were people that reserved, including myself, there were people that reserved the Model Y rear-wheel drive long range, and they reserved it with full self-driving. And they waited and waited for their car to be ready, and there was even times Elon said, we're going to make that car later. It was just, we haven't built it yet. Several years went by until eventually Tesla reached out to those reservation holders and said, sorry, we're not building that model. You got to change to the dual motor all-wheel drive long range. You can't keep your order. And those people were like, hey, can I keep my full self-driving price that I reserved at? Like it was $7,000 when I put down my reservation, and Tesla said, no, you got to pay the full $12,000. So should they have honored it? Yes, I agree. That would be great, and that would be awesome for them to just say, yes, you can keep your full self-driving price. But I've seen evidence of Tesla being really petty on a much lower volume vehicle. Like, how many people actually were still holding on to those reservations of rear-wheel drive long-range Model Ys? Probably not that many. There was probably like under 10,000 reservations for that car. And even less than, there was probably under 5,000 reservations that did it with FSD. Very small group of people, and Tesla still said, no, we're not going to honor it. Whereas the number of people that locked in full self-driving with the Cybertruck, we're talking probably hundreds of thousands of people locked it in. And technically, by only making the quad motor, that will count as an order modification, which means they don't have to honor the FSD. So as long as they never make a triple motor, dual motor, single motor, they can basically get away with never honoring those full self-driving prices, which I think, given the high demand for the Cybertruck, it's fairly likely that they might just always build quad motor, and as long as there's demand for it. I don't think the powertrains are that expensive. That's part of the reason the 4680 Model Y, like the standard range one, they made it all-wheel drive, dual motor. You know, they could have easily made it a rear-wheel drive, and I don't think anyone would have complained, but they wanted to justify a higher price because they know demand is so high. So they were like, no, let's just... Oh, sorry, the earnings call is annual meeting is replaying behind me. So because they wanted to justify a higher price, they increased the number of motors in the car. And I think for the off-roading capability and the fact that the pickup truck's going to be so high performance anyway, I just don't see a point where Tesla can start selling pickup trucks for $50,000. Just demand is too high. For that reason, because it's a larger group, Tesla may be forced to honor FSD pricing. No, legally, they'd be perfectly fine. For the same reason they weren't legally required with the Model Y rear-wheel drive, as long as they don't build a tri-motor, dual motor, or single motor, they'd say, well, you can hold on to your reservation, or you can switch it to quad motor, but if you switch it to quad motor, we don't have to honor your FSD. It's in the fine print. If you read the Cybertruck pre-order agreement, barely anything has been locked in. It says like, everything's subject to change, and this doesn't guarantee you anything. What do you think will be the first year revenue will be for Cybertruck? I think because it's such a complex, large vehicle that uses so many batteries, it will likely not be very high volume at first. I think it will ramp similarly to the Model S and X. Probably even slower because of how many batteries it needs and because of how different it is from all the other vehicles. So I don't have the exact comparative revenue model on my head, but I just want to say it would, in the first year, it will probably be similar to how the Model S and X revenue was last year. Like they were producing for half. I don't mean legally, I mean public opinion / outcry. That doesn't matter when your demand's off the charts. That's the thing. Tesla has a ton of power because if you have a line of people willing to buy your car, it doesn't matter if there's another line of people mad at you. It's like, okay, keep yelling. We're still going to keep selling our product. It's like, yeah, people will be upset, no doubt about it. I completely agree, and that's why I talk about the Cybertruck so much, is because I'm trying to taper expectations and I'm trying to be realistic. I don't want a bunch of people to be sad and disappointed by the specs, but I see it like a freight train coming. It's like, this is going to hurt. The specs and the prices are going to come, and they're going to be a big disappointment, and it's going to throw a bunch of people off, so I'm trying to warn as many as I can. But there's still a ton of people that will be willing to buy it, so it would still sell, for sure. When stock split? I think next year? I don't know. They didn't talk too much about the split, honestly. It doesn't really matter at the end of the day, so I would just assume not soon, probably next year. They did say next factory to be announced later. What model do you think it would prioritize? I guess it depends on the market. Japan would actually make a lot of sense. I've seen some people suggesting Giga Osaka. The main reason is because Japan is the 4th largest car market in the world. There's a ton of people that buy cars in Japan. There's already a ton of people buying Teslas in Japan. So just building better, and Panasonic is based there, and I think they've already announced that they're going to be building 4680 batteries in Japan, which is specifically made for and designed by Tesla, and Panasonic's kind of working with them on that. So if they're already building 4680 batteries there, or they're starting to, or they're working on ramping up batteries there, it would make a lot of sense to build a car factory in Japan because the general population has a lot of money to spend on higher end vehicles. You know, it's easy to say like, well, they should build it in India or they should build it in Brazil, but the spending of the population there is just lower. Just people don't spend as much on their cars. So even if you put a factory there, you wouldn't have as much demand as you would in Japan, even if there's more people living in those other countries. That just like, even if you launched the mythical, non-existent $25,000 Tesla. If you launched that car and it was like a Model 2 or whatever, it was like a compact Tesla, it would still not sell very well in India because not even $25,000 cars sell very well there. So it's just not a great place to build right now, I think, when Tesla is trying to focus on ramping up production, and, you know, their vehicles obviously are going to cost quite a bit for now. So I think that Japan would likely make the most amount of sense, assuming we're not counting Giga Shanghai expanding, because that's been announced. They've confirmed that they plan to expand nearby Giga Shanghai, another facility that's going to be like 450,000 vehicles a year. So Shanghai will ramp up to around 1.5 million. I don't know if he counts that as a future announcement, but Giga Japan, Giga Osaka would make a lot of sense. Maybe even a second factory in Europe. You know, Shanghai is massive and is ramping up a lot, and China's a very, very popular car market, the biggest car market in the world, and they've got a huge factory there. Giga Berlin is currently expected to be at like a 500,000 run rate when fully ramped. So either expanding Berlin or finding somewhere else in Europe to build a factory would also make a lot of sense to me. I don't know as much about the market as Indonesia. I'm not sure how much cars are bought there or what they sell for. But it just seems like Japan would overlap the most with Tesla's product line. So in Japan, they would build the Model Y, I'd assume. They would just be focusing on 4680 Model Ys, and down the road maybe Model 3s or something like that. Let's see. I know it will sell, but that's not good practice. They clearly mentioned in their website that we can lock the FSD price. I know, but they've already done this. You're acting like they haven't done this before. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Tesla already got stingy and said, no, we're not honoring FSD prices on a very small group of people. They would not miss out on much revenue by just giving all of those reservation holders $7,000 FSD. Cybertruck is way more people. So if they're not willing to let it slide on a tiny group of people, why do you think they'll let it slide on a giant group of people? That's what I don't get. What's with the AC? It's not in this room. It's out there. It's running. It's just the fan. It makes noise, but I get people that complain no matter what. So I just figure I'm gonna just do what I want, because if I run the fan, people say it's too noisy. If I turn it off, people say I'm too sweaty. But a lot of people just listen to this in audio form, so I figured sweaty's better than noisy. But they don't honor it with, yeah, absolutely. But I honestly would love to see the Model 3 actually be built somewhere else. I know Giga Texas has no plans to build the Model 3, but I think that demand is still pretty dang high for that vehicle, and we could use more of them. I think a lot of people would buy them if they were cheaper. There are already a lot of people buying them, and they're expensive. He said, do you think you will buy it at some point? Buy what? The Cybertruck? I doubt it. I just don't think I can afford it. I'm convinced that the Cybertruck will be a six-figure pickup truck, and I can't even justify a $40,000 pick. Even if the Cybertruck was $40,000, I don't think I could justify it. Noise cancellation works well for constant noise. I'm gonna hear about it either way, so I'm just. You might tolerate it, but that doesn't mean everyone else in the live stream will. And also, I've live streamed with the fan running before. I did it this morning. People can hear it. I can hear it. I know what it sounds like. He says double-digit gigafactories are coming. What do you think the number of new ones in the U.S. will be? I could see. North America is a pretty big market, and they plan on exporting Model S's and X's for the foreseeable future. So I could see maybe 3 to 4 gigafactories in the U.S. In some interview at some point, he said they would probably build one on the East Coast. Elon spends a lot of time in Florida because of Cape Canaveral and Starship, so I could see them maybe doing a factory in Florida at some point. Other than that, maybe somewhere more north, maybe in Washington or closer to New York. They already kind of have a factory in New York, but it's for solar. Adam says they will probably announce more than one gigafactory by the end of the year. Yeah, they announced Giga Berlin and Giga Texas pretty close to each other, but basically how he worded it on today's meeting, it sounded like they had decided already. They're just like, we're gonna announce a new gigafactory location later this year. So to me, that sounded like they're scouting now and they've decided, and they just haven't officially confirmed it yet, but they've probably agreed. I have a suspicion that they may still make a dual motor version. It's so popular, and they still make dual motor S and X. It is, but I just don't think there's so many advantages to making a quad motor Cybertruck with the traction control and the acceleration, and I think that just in the same way that Model S and X are super high in demand, and that's why the price has gotten so bad. A couple of years ago, Tesla was selling the Model S dual motor for $69,420. But they refreshed it, and they upgraded it, and they made it so nice that same dual motor Model S with the same 100 kilowatt hour battery pack, it's just got new interior features and an updated look. But a lot of the internals are the same. That same Model S is now $105,000. And that's not because it costs that much more to put in a 17-inch landscape display. It's not because the yoke costs $40,000 more. It's all just going to be based on demand. And I'm personally predicting that demand for the Cybertruck is going to be so great that it'll just be easier for Tesla to just keep manufacturing quad motors for the all-wheel drive and for the off-roading performance and capability. And Tesla doesn't like complicating lineups. Literally every Model Y in the US is dual motor. And he's confirmed that they want to do quad motor for the truck. So I think it'll just be simpler for them to just mass produce quad motors after quad motors. And if demand dies down, which I don't think it will, but even if it does, it would be easier for them to just lower the price to $90,000 or $80,000 than it would be to introduce a whole new line and say, well, this one only has 2 motors instead of 4. Break down the cost of the vehicle. The powertrain is not that expensive. That's not where most of your money is going. I mean, physically, space-wise, powertrains are honestly pretty kind of compact. They're not a ton of materials, and once you know how to pump out a lot of them, they're pretty easy to pop in and pop out of vehicles, which is why most of Tesla's vehicles are dual motor. It's just that's not that expensive for them to include, even though technically, yeah, they could do rear-wheel drive, they could do single motor, they just choose not to. I think that's what their plan is with the Cybertruck. I'd love to be wrong, for the record. If I'm wrong and the price is very reasonable, and they do a 500-mile range version, I'll be so happy for you all. And I'll be grateful that I tempered expectations, because then when reality comes and reality's great, everyone will be like, oh, thank God, I was expecting it to be far worse than that. And I think that will be a far more positive reaction than if we all just expected the Cybertruck to be high range, low price, super fair pricing, super reasonable, and they honor all our FSD pricing. If we all go into it expecting that and then it's not that, we're all going to have a very negative reaction. We're all going to be very disappointed, and I know what that feels like, because I was expecting the 4680 Model Y to have a over 400-mile range and be reasonably priced, and that's kind of what I was saving up money for. That's what I was expecting, and I was disappointed by reality, but what helped me process that disappointment was realizing why Tesla did what they did. It's not because they suck and they just can't figure it out. It's because they're going all in on production efficiency and ramping, and they realize that when demand is this high, there's no need to improve range. Even if there's a use case, yes, I understand. There's a use case for a 500-mile range Cybertruck. That doesn't mean it's the right thing to do. And that's a complicated situation Tesla's in, and I don't think it's a situation very many people understand. It's very difficult for me to explain, so I just try my best in my streams and my videos to be like, no, there's a good reason for this. It's disappointing, but also the right thing to do. And I just think the more realistic expectations are, the less disappointed you'd be. Yeah, Elon's hyped it many times. He says it's the best product they've ever built, but you know what he said was the best product before the Cybertruck was the Plaid Model S, which is $130,000. So I don't think just because he says it's their best product, that means it has to be cheap. If anything, quite the opposite. The fact that he keeps saying it's their best product probably means that it will be very pricey. And he's just trying to justify it. It'll be the best truck in the world, not the cheapest. In fact, it might be up there in price. But I don't, like, in my lifestyle, I really don't need a pickup truck for anything. I just don't do anything that really warrants owning one, and they're less efficient, and they cost more to insure. So I care more about efficiency, and I barely use the trunk in my car, which is why I'm not in the market for a pickup truck. But if I were, I would probably buy the cheapest electric pickup I could, which would be the F-150 Lightning. I'm not in love with the design or the software, but if I needed a truck, I would just say, like, I'm only going to use the truck when I absolutely need to use the bed or the hitch or the tailgate or something. If I had a use for that pickup truck, I would only use it for those times when I used it. But all other circumstances, I would just drive the Model 3 because that's the more efficient, that has the better tech. It's actually cheaper. Think about this for a second. It would actually be cheaper for me to buy a Model 3 and an F-150 Lightning than it would be to buy one Cybertruck. I would save money by having two vehicles. At least that's what I'm predicting with the pricing. I could be way off on that, but if my lifestyle changed and I could justify getting a pickup truck, you know, a Rivian would be nice, and a Rivian would be cheaper than a Cybertruck, but definitely more expensive than a Lightning. I would just treat it as a truck. I wouldn't treat it as my daily driver. I wouldn't use it for road trips or driving town or picking up groceries. Thank you, the Tesla Barbarian, for the super chat. He says, I got $5 on your soon-to-come dual-motor Cybertruck. Thank you for a great live stream and excellent Cybertruck discussion. Thank you, Barbarian. I enjoy talking about it, too, and it's very kind of you to super chat. I'm glad that there's other people out there that are as into this as I am, because I could talk about this all day, and it's not about needing a truck. The Cybertruck is a way of life. I kind of want it to go towards people that truly need it. I'm not trying to call out anyone here, but I kind of get annoyed when I see people buy up Teslas that don't really need them, that are just like, well, this is my secondary Tesla, or I'm going to use this for, I don't know, like weekend getaways, and then I'll do this. That's like, I feel like that goes against the mission a little bit. Like, the point of Tesla making a lot of vehicles is to get more gas cars off the road. And when I see people that just start stockpiling Teslas and treat them like assets, it's like, are you helping get more gas cars off the road at this point, or are you just trying to hoard them all for yourself and use it as a money-making machine? I mean, I'm not saying a law should be passed or anything, but I think it's just kind of a common courtesy thing that if someone out there really needs a pickup truck, and especially electric one, I want the people that genuinely need them to get them. and not the people that just want it as a status symbol, because they're going to be low in supply for years. I think it could easily be back ordered for 5-6 years. There's not going to be people getting them that need them, that want them for work or for their lifestyle or for camping or whatever. And if you don't absolutely need that truck, I would say don't go for it. You know, don't take it away from someone that could utilize it. Again, it's not something I'm advocating we should legally change. It's just a common courtesy thing. I would like an EV because I've been doing a lot of driving for picking people up from the airports and traveling to visiting my family, so I can justify that I do need a car, but I'm trying to buy one that's reasonable and efficient and not too crazy expensive. And the Model Y would be nice, but we don't really need a Model Y as much as someone else. And me choosing to go with a Model Y over a Model 3 would have resulted in a longer backlog and probably higher prices if I increase the demand for Model Y. Do you think they will make a plaid version of the Cybertruck? I think the quad motor is the plaid. I basically think there will only be a plaid. If plaid means triple motor, then no. But I think plaid just means like super fast. I think that's all it counts for. Do you feel the same way about people who have several as a Turo fleet? A little bit, yeah. I mean, it's their money. They can do what they want. I'm not trying to say they can't spend the money the way they want, but I just mean it feels a little weird is all I'm trying to say. When like someone like me is trying to get a hold of a Tesla and I'm trying to stop driving my gas car because that's all I got and I don't want to keep paying for gas. But I'm having to wait because of, and I'm not talking about individuals. One individual is not pushing me back in the line. I'm more so talking about like Hertz Rentals or this new startup called Autonomy. They're buying 200 Teslas a week specifically so that they can just rent them out. They're not selling them to anyone. They're just renting them out. So they're like buying up EVs to make money off of them, which, okay, they're a company and they need to make a profit, but like, is that putting more gas cars off the road, or is that just delaying people's transition from the gas cars and that kind of stuff? They could have bought a gas-powered status symbol. What do you think is going to happen with the supposed $25,000 car? I don't think that'll ever happen. I think that was a pipe dream at one point, and now they're focused. The last time someone asked about the $25,000 car, their answer was basically, it's the wrong question. The goal we're pursuing is to make the lowest cost per mile form of transport, which is a robotaxi. So I think their goal is to make a super cheap EV that can drive itself, and it will cost so little per mile that you can just rent that everywhere you go and you don't need to buy a $25,000 car. They've totally changed their narrative. In the past couple of years, they've made no mention of making a $25,000 car. So don't expect that to come out. I think the Model 3 will forever be the cheapest Tesla you can buy. And maybe in the future, in a few jurisdictions, they will launch very limited robo-taxis that cost very little to ride in. But if they make a robo-taxi, there will be no point in selling it to a customer. Yeah, that 20, like Randy said, that $25,000 car is long gone. Not because Tesla can't figure out how to build a $25,000 car. I believe they can, with lithium iron phosphate and single piece castings and a single motor, like a power efficient motor. I think they could make one, but they would be nowhere close to matching the demand for it. We already see how crazy demand is for $60,000 Teslas. If there was a Tesla for $25,000, it would be so freaking high in demand, they would not have the production capacity for it for years. It would be like a 10-year backlog. It would be insane. Every mile driven in the Tesla Hertz or Turo is a mile not driven in an ICE vehicle. That's tangentially in keeping with the mission. I agree with you, just playing devil's advocate. Yeah, possibly, but I also think that there's a lot of people renting them out for the sake of renting them out because they just want to try one, and it's fun to drive around a Tesla, and I get that, but how many miles are you taking away if someone is using that in replacement of a rental gas car versus a permanent ownership gas car? Like, I think there's more miles driven on gas cars you own versus gas cars you rent. There's more total miles. So, like, it's overall, I think, a net win when you put a gas car out of commission. And I don't think that you necessarily do that with the rentals as much. It's just not as many miles. Good sales tool to encourage people to consider owning it. We already got that. We don't need more demand, though. That's not the problem. Okay, like you test drive a Tesla. Yeah, I want to own one. I want to get a Tesla. So you order one, and then you have to wait for a year because all the rental companies keep buying up Teslas, trying to convince more people to buy them. It's like, okay, you convinced me. I'm sold on one. I've been sold on one for years. I'm still waiting, and I'm still burning gasoline every time I gotta drive somewhere because some other rental company bought up all the Teslas, and I don't get one yet because they're too high in demand. So it's like the demand is almost to a fault now. It's like slowing down, and you get more and more. But no, I saw a video today. I guess that's why it's on my mind. Someone bought like a bunch of Teslas, and they're just like stockpiling them. There's literally people that are just buying the vehicles, and they're not necessarily renting all of them out. They want to hold them because they know their value is going to appreciate, and they want to turn them into robo-taxis. It was on Twitter this morning. And I'm like, okay, there's people literally just buying up these cars to treat them like gold. That's not putting gas cars off the road. The same cost as LFP. They will supply Tesla starting Q3, Q4. I did see something about that. 15% energy density. I don't think that's that much better. I mean, it's an improvement, but I bet the range will still be in the high 200s, low 300s range, which is good. I'm glad it exists, but I just didn't, in case you were wondering why I didn't do a video on it. That's why. What will you guys do with the Sonata once the Model 3 comes? At this point, we're just planning on holding on to it as a backup car. We're not going to drive it very frequently, but just like if something goes wrong with the Model 3, we'll use the Sonata. But if we own the Model 3 for a few months and we feel pretty comfortable with it and it's pretty reliable, we may sell the Sonata. We just haven't decided yet. It's also just going to be handy to have another car around for when friends and family are visiting, because we have a lot of friends and family that come into town and just need to drive something around, so this would be cheaper than a rental car. And it's a very efficient gas car, to be fair, but I'll drive them around in the Tesla as much as possible. I'll do the bulk of driving, like driving to the airport and back. That's where you're burning the most gas. That's what I would drive the Tesla in. And then when people are just kind of driving around town, if they need an additional car, they can drive the gas car, but it wouldn't use as much gas. People cannot afford Tesla but can rent one. Why not? Well, renting is pretty easy to get a hold of. You can rent on something on Turo for a couple $100. That doesn't mean you can afford a $50,000, $60,000 car. But anyway, I got to be careful because I could do this all day if I'm not if I'm not watching the clock. But I just wanted to give a quick shout out to our executive and enhanced members of Patreon, Joshua Vinnick, Dennis P., Dr. Mark Troy, who's a dentist in the Woodland area, Bennett Williams, Joshua Levitsky, Robert Brindle, Matt S., and Alex Ding. Thank you guys for being extra supportive on Patreon, helping me afford the car, helping these videos be made possible, and just overall, everyone just watching. That makes a big difference too. So I'm very grateful for all you guys, and I appreciate the questions and the engagement. So I'm going to sign off here, and I'm going to stand in front of the air conditioner for a while. Take care, all. Have a good day. Bye.